Okay, welcome everyone to our August 13th meeting. And our first agenda item is to approve the minutes of July 9th. And we've had some corrections made on it. I don't know if anyone's been able to read that corrected minutes from today. Does anybody have any other changes? Are they okay with the changes that were made? I need a motion to approve them.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm pretty much okay with them. There's something at the very beginning that states that we deviated from the agenda. I didn't consider that a deviation from the agenda. It just seemed like we were talking about that subject.
So it was a deviation from the order of the agenda.
Yeah.
That's what I intend.
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
Or do I?
That's what it says, deviated from the order. It has been corrected
normally
to say that.
We take minutes and then we go in that order, but we deviated from the order because we started off the discussion about whether we were live streaming or recording.
I'm 99% okay with approving them. I just didn't consider that to have anything to do with the online message board. That's all.
Okay.
Is that something that we...
And you're clear on that? Everybody's clear? Okay. All right, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
You opposed?
I oppose because I want that part changed. Amended. I would approve with it being amended.
Okay, our next item is recording and broadcasting district meetings and social media communication. Okay, so I'll say right now, for anyone in the audience, we welcome you to record the meeting. It is perfectly okay. That was not our discussion at the last meeting. Our discussion at the last meeting was that we needed a way, if the board was going to broadcast it, to do it legally. We have to follow open meeting rules, and to my knowledge, it was not abiding by open meeting rules, and that puts every director in jeopardy of breaking the law. So that's why I brought it up. That's why the board was discussing it, and we want to just get it situated. And we have many things that we're going to do tonight to try, as a board, and broadcast that, to bring it into the law, the legal way of doing it. So I don't know if anybody else has anything to say about how that went, because I think it was misunderstood for the comments I read online. The comments I read online said that we were trying to hide. We're not hiding anything. We cannot hide anything. This board has always been very open and allows anybody to discuss at any time our discussion. We're not hiding, or nor we ever have or will try to hide anything.
But before we start, though, can we clarify whether, now that the research has been done, that act was illegal?
What act was illegal?
Broadcasting as just sitting up here.
That's this memo. So if the board would just let me go through this with the board, and for all those members who are present. I have a memorandum that I did share with the board late on Friday, but I want to go through it piece by piece with you all and make sure we clarify and do everything according to the Open Meetings Act. There are two different statutes that are being discussed, so there's a little bit of nuance here to what we're talking about. So the first one, the question is, can persons record district meetings, and can persons broadcast district meetings? And so we've done the research, and I've got some memos and some court cases here, a couple of court cases here for you to consider and review. But let's take them one at a time. So the Public Information Act, Open Meetings Act, actually allows recording of district meetings by any person in attendance. So persons, audience members, we define that, to me, seems to say that anyone who is here in attendance can record any part of the open meeting, not a closed executive session, But in an executive session, the public's not going to be in an executive session anyway. But you can use a recorder, video camera, other means of oral and visual reproduction. However, the district does have the right to adopt reasonable rules about that. Say, for instance, if you had, 100 people here tonight, I just got back from vacation, as some of you know, and I got to see the Mona Lisa. And to see the Mona Lisa, you got to push and shove a lot. And so if there were 100 people here pushing and shoving to take your picture and to record you like they do the Mona Lisa, then you might need to adopt some rules and regulations to govern that, to say, okay, anybody who's recording or has video equipment needs to be over in this corner or needs to be in this place, so as not to disrupt the public meeting and disrupt others' ability to hear and see what is going on. So
currently, do we have any rules that have been established?
We do not currently have any rules that regulate our maintaining order at the meeting. That is something the board can decide if it's necessary or not. But there is not, but we could have rules relating to the location and the manner that the recording is conducted. The limitation is you can't adopt rules that prevent or impair any person from exercising their right to record. So, okay. And there's no authority on what constitutes a reasonable rule, but reasonable, we have to use our good judgment if we even think that we need to make rules about the public videoing or making oral recordings of our meetings. Okay. The second, this is a different regulation. There's a second section of the Open Meetings Act. It's in section 551128. We talked about that briefly last month, but I knew it was there, but I hadn't been able to dig into it. We've since done a little more digging. This one is on the word broadcast, the district's ability to broadcast their meetings over the internet. The district may broadcast meetings over the internet. The word broadcast is not defined in the Open Meetings Act, but it appears, I did a word search, it appears like 13 times in the Act, never defined. But in at least one case, in section 551021, the word broadcast is in a section that is dedicated to telephonic conference calls. So I take that to presume to mean that broadcast can include not just visual broadcast, but oral broadcast. So I think the live streaming, whether it be oral or video, I'm going to conclude that word broadcast covers both oral transmissions or video transmissions. So the district may do this, but you can't just do this as your own spontaneous act. There are rules that have to be followed. The statute is specifics about how we do this. So you have to have an internet site, such as a website. We've got that checked. So you have to provide the access to the broadcast from that site. In other words, offering it up someplace, even if it's on social media or next door or someplace that you would have to sign up for a membership, I would conclude that that's not a public, it's one-click spot. Like, you're going to need to use your website. That's thing number one for the board, and provide access from that site. So then you also need to post notice of your intent to broadcast the meeting. So you need to put that on the agenda. So that's an easy solution. You can create a space on your website. I put something on the bottom of the agenda that says this meeting will be broadcast by, depending on what the board would decide, audio or by visual or by whatever, and you put the website link by going to www. whatever it is, Rayford Road. I don't know what link would be set up for that, but that's how you would do it. Now, Shannon Waugh is going to be here a little later tonight, so you may have to return to this. I wanted to start off with it because it was object of a lot of discussion last month, and I wanted to get right off to races and talk about it and make sure we put it all on the table. But unfortunately, your website designer, Shannon, I don't see her yet.
Well, that's fine. We'll wait for her.
Yeah, you can wait for her, but she can tell you she's coming to be prepared. I asked her to come tonight and tell the board how easy or hard, probably not, to create the link. I think that's probably very easy. The hardest part will be, how do you broadcast so that everyone's voice is heard? Do we need to set up, is this going to be video broadcast? Is that necessary? Or do we think an oral broadcast? Or do we think this is necessary at all? All of those questions are still up for the board's consideration. But from a practical standpoint, it seems to me you'd at least need microphones in front of each of you so that you can be heard if you intend to broadcast, so that it's not getting one person's voice or Bill Russell's belly grumbling or something like that.
Or my football game.
Yeah, or your football game, which has been known to be heard during the...
So what James's question is it seems that it was not legal for him to broadcast last time.
Well,
because he's a board member. He's not an individual.
That's the rub, and that is the whole. It's not clear, so I'm giving the most conservative advice possible. And my conservative advice is that any of your actions, one of your actions, you may say I'm acting as an individual, but your actions may be imputed to the board, whether that's right or whether that's wrong. So I don't give advice to individuals. I don't say John Valerie, because I don't represent you, John. I represent the district and I represent the board, the entire board. So I have to say conservatively that I would strongly prefer that none of you broadcasts or live streams the meeting from this table until the board makes a decision to do that, and does it by following all these procedures and putting the link up, because otherwise the district is not in compliance with the section 551, 128, if you aren't doing this.
Just to further clarify, because I'm not sure I understood, even if the board, should the board approve doing something like this, even at that point, it would not be done by an individual board member sitting at this table. It would have to be done by some means.
I think it would be fairest if it were done by some means where you put microphones.
That's why I'm going forward with it, is
right.
Because I noticed if an individual does it, they can take a frame of it, put it out there, and make somebody look good or bad. They can make comments on that. That person would be in control of the comments. They can delete them. So I want a way that no one outside can change the content of our meeting. So I want us to have a proposal from our website that they do the recording, if that's the way it happens, and then we put it on our site, because we're having residents ask for it.
Well,
whether we can afford it, I don't know if we'll be able to pay for it.
I think the volume of residents requesting it is questionable. We've got 3,700 homes in this.
That's right.
I don't know that there's a fair representation of people requesting it. And I want to repeat the word that actually Lori used earlier in her presentation, is that it cannot be a spontaneous event. It has to be something that has been approved by the board.
Absolutely.
With the board following the directions of this statute.
Well, that's how I envision it, because now we've got someone talking about it. It should be brought to the board and discussed, because the board's going to make the decision. So one minute, sir. The board will make a decision on this.
Yes.
Not an individual. So.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to clarify, Lori, am I a person?
That's an interesting question.
I mean, I think we can't really get much further until, as hard as it may be for some of my fellow board members to acknowledge whether I'm a person.
Well, it's not hard, James. I think the only other person that might be able to determine it is a district attorney.
Well, no, I'm looking at the memorandum, and it says any person in attendance.
Well, I know, but
let's
You're looking at number 1, not the number 2 area.
Let's go back to
You're looking at the recording.
Let's go back to the act does not define the word person, right? So, James, Mr. Ridgway,
yes,
you are a person.
Okay.
In the strictest,
and am
under the eyes of the good Lord, and all of us here in common sense would say, yes, you are a person.
And am I in attendance?
But I will say, here's the issue, that the way the Act describes person all throughout the statute. I looked at that too, man. The word person is used almost as if it's talking about these persons that are out in the audience, because when the statute refers to board members, it refers to them as members. And in fact, when you talk about taking the training, the statute speaks in terms of a person completing their training to be a member. So it's hard, I will say there's no case law out there that says, you, Mr. Director, stop being a person the day you come on the board. But what I'll also say is the most conservative view I would take is that you are a board member. The Open Meetings Act governs conduct of board members. It doesn't limit your free speech, but it does limit your conduct because you've chosen to be elected and you've chosen to serve. So you have to abide by certain conduct rules that are in the Open Meeting Act, or you may be subject to violations of the Act. Now, I'll say this. The violations, try not to lose any sleep, Mr. Ridgway, because the violations in the Open Meeting Act that have criminal penalties have to do with people trying to have these sneaky non-quorum quorums. They don't have to do with, there's nothing in the Act that talks about there being a criminal penalty for someone violating Section 551.128 on broadcast.
Well, that's important. I was accused of allegedly committing a crime at the last meeting.
And nobody's done the research. Nobody's, we weren't there till tonight. I'll say.
Am I exonerated?
I don't think so, because I don't. But neither are you going to jail, or even you're not in violation of those criminal provisions. But your actions may place this board and this district in violation of Section 551.128, which says that in order to broadcast meetings, we have to put it on the agenda at the bottom. We have to put it on a direct website. So,
okay.
Do you understand?
I do, and I want to.
That's a fine point.
It's fine. I just want to submit this for the record. It can be an exhibit in the minutes. This is from attorney, Joe Larson with the Freedom of Information Foundation of Texas, and this is coming from Kelly Shannon, the executive director, and Joe Larson is the attorney on the board of the directors. And the conclusion here is that there's no limitation to live streaming an open meeting under the Texas Open Meetings Act, the provision explicitly allowing recording of an open meeting, and then it cites
551.
Yeah, so
that's 023, right?
Well, I have 551023,
right.
And it goes on though to say the statute does not explicitly discuss live streaming from the recording equipment. However, there are no limitations regarding to what use the recorded image may be put. Any effort to read a limitation into this statute leads to an absurd result of being able to record the meeting but not being able to play or broadcast the recording, or of reading some kind of delay into the use of the recording. Quote, a person in attendance obviously includes a member of the board. And there's more, but that's
obviously.
Isn't that different than live streaming? You're talking about recording, James. You're not talking about live streaming.
Right.
He addresses
statute.
That, and that's why I want this to be
address specifically the requirements that the district is subject to under 551.128.
It says a person in attendance obviously includes a member of the board. And so
he says that obviously, when I was in law school, the teacher would say, obviously and surely, that's where the dead horse is buried. Because that when people say, obviously this is the case, where's your strength for that? Because there isn't any case law or any definition of a person. But again, I go back to what they are commenting on and opining on is 551.023, which does say that recordings is allowed. It does say any person in attendance. That's clear. But the second statute has to do with the district's obligations on broadcasting, and that's in 551128.
And when I read that, it doesn't say if you're a board member, then this applies. It would seem that the first part, the 023.
They're
Right.
different.
But it does.
They're completely different sections.
Then they contradict each other.
No, not necessarily.
Because a person in attendance can record the meeting.
A person in
But then,
attendance.
James,
In attendance of the meeting. These people out here are in attendance of this meeting.
So are you, and so am I, according to the law.
But what we understand.
But you are now a board member.
I'm just reading the law, and I'm reading
you're
a.
reading one of the sections of the law, not both of the sections of the law. And what I'm trying to do is most conservatively keep this district in compliance with both sections of the law. And by the way I want to do that is by having the board make decisions. Okay, if we want to broadcast our meeting, then board members broadcast the meeting and put it on the website like it's supposed to be done. Put it on the agenda like it's supposed to be done, and tick down the procedures. You're a board member, and you say, I'm choosing to put this on my Facebook. That's not public. So it doesn't meet. You're failing all the tests that the district has to comply with.
If I was acting on behalf of the board,
but see, you sit in the board chair right now. You don't get to take your hat on and off. You are a board member. All of you are board members. And so my conservative advice is to stay in compliance with the letter of both statutes. That's
fine. I hear your advice, okay. and that's why I want this part to be part of our records for the public, that there's an organization out there that represents freedom of information,
right.
And one of their board directors is saying that I do have the right. Anybody has the right, and that's fine. I just want that to be known.
Do you want this board to go to the district attorney and ask him to look at it?
I called the Texas Attorney General's office. I contacted this organization.
But what did the Texas Attorney General?
That any person in attendance of a meeting may record.
May record.
Yeah.
So we need a ruling.
So that would be recording, not broadcasting.
No one's denying, James, that it can be recorded.
Yeah.
You're, I think, missing the point. You're on this other statute, the 128, concerns the live streaming and the broadcast. It's a totally different issue, which Lori has very adequately explained. But you're talking about something totally different.
What you're saying, James, is that we can conduct our meeting without giving notice of our agenda anywhere.
How am I saying that?
I could, because you recorded and broadcast it last meeting, but we didn't give notice to the public. That's like hiding the broadcast.
I just read the law. The law says a person in attendance may record. And then to Jim's point, what the attorney here says is that any effort to read a limitation into this statute leads to an absurd result of being able to.
Which statute? 123 or 128? Tell me that. Which statute is he referring to?
The 023.
Okay, we're not going to get anywhere with this, so we're just going to move on. And if we.
But I hear what you're saying on the recording. The minutes will so reflect that.
Can this go as an exhibit with the minutes?
We're spending a lot of money on this, but can we go to the Attorney General and get him to rule on this so James will be clear?
No,
the district attorney has the.
There are certain people who have a right to request an opinion from the Attorney General. A board president is not one of them. Maybe one of your state senators. You could ask them. Okay. There are certain folks that are entitled to get an AG opinion, and then still, an AG opinion is just the opinion.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I got an opinion, he's got an opinion, somebody in the AG's office has got an opinion, but at the end of the day, I want to keep you guys in compliance with both statutes. So my opinion is going to be naturally more conservative than the Freedom of Information Act person who comes from a perspective of video and media print, and they come from the First Amendment's perspective. They want everything to be public, and that's fine. That's the whole purpose of the open meetings law. But from my perspective as well, I want you all to follow the procedures that Open Meetings Act imposes.
Absolutely.
On how we broadcast our meetings.
Well,
Let's be consistent on getting information to the public and not just deciding things on our own. But James, what are you looking for? Do you want?
Well, I was accused of a crime by you, John, and I take offense to that. I spent the time to research it. I did the open meetings training, and it wasn't just done with no thought.
Okay.
I didn't bring it up. I didn't talk about it. I didn't make it any part of our discussions. Some people took offense at me not doing that. I thought, well, clearly keeping it separate really substantiates my stance that this has nothing to do with the board.
We serve as a board. We are a team, and we make team decisions. And this has not been decided as a board whether or not how we're going to do this.
Well, it sounds
There's
like,
no
Frank,
problem.
that we may have a path where everybody can be happy, maybe, where we start doing it, and it isn't an individual. I said last meeting, I think that'd be great, because the whole idea here, and the whole idea in this letter, is that we want our public. I mean, there's a lot of people that drive, a lot, and this kind of material isn't the most super exciting stuff to listen to, but if you were able to access it on an hour drive to work or back, like that is a resource for our public. But I'll conclude, I'll drop it just by saying, I personally, I think it's darkly ironic that we spent several $1,000s according to the invoice.
$5,000, you know.
I'm sorry?
$5,000 or $6,000 so far.
Yeah, we've spent several $1,000s
We're not done yet.
and on limiting. Well, I'll leave it at that.
We're not limiting nothing. We want this to go forward, James. Don't act like we've ever tried to stop it. We just ask that
It can be done properly.
right.
Well, when I read Lori's memorandum and your team's memorandum, I don't draw any different conclusion. It says the same thing that I emailed to Lori. It says the same thing I said at the meeting. Everybody's concluding the same thing. And then, Lori, you have the nuance there to say, I'm trying to protect the board. I'm trying to be ultra conservative so that nobody could possibly interpret anything. But I'm not hearing anyone tell me that what happened last month was an actual violation of the Texas Open Meetings Act, and I'll leave it at that.
It was a violation.
It was.
Because we did not give a notice to the
Was
public.
that a violation, Lauren?
Yes.
It states it right here. I'll read it to you. You
Okay.
can see it. So in 551.128, it says, in sum, Texas law does not allow for the broadcast of a district meeting to be a spontaneous event, which yours was.
You announced it to
If
no
the
one.
district chooses to broadcast its meetings over the internet, modification of the district's website to include a link to the broadcast and a timely posted meeting notice must be made well in advance of the meeting. That didn't happen.
Well, I don't think.
That's
I
the
think
part
we're
that
just going to
didn't
go in circle because one,
Well, that's
I'm
clear.
a person.
That's clear.
Two, it says in addition, the act allows. It allows. It doesn't say I, the person, have to do anything. It says the board, and then it goes into what a board can do.
Here's
Board
the
member now.
Yeah,
But
you're
you
a board
vote on the
member,
board,
and
James.
here's let me say this because it ties into what I said last meeting. I am all for getting all this information out to the public because we don't have anything to hide, nothing
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
The only issue that I have, James, was that you didn't tell any of us that you were doing it, and you're a part of the board. You're a board member. In the meeting, you made the comment that you made it public, right? You made it public on your Facebook page. So my question to you then would be, how many of our residents are friends with you on your Facebook page to see the live stream?
I mean, I have no idea.
Well, you know,
I understand
you know
where
how
you're
many
going.
friends you have on your Facebook page.
Yeah, a few, a couple,
Right.
something like that.
But again, my point is that we have not made it public. That's what we have to do as a board.
Yeah.
We didn't do that. So as a board, we could be held in violation by not making it public to our residents. That's my only concern with it. And I said it in the meeting last month. If we can find a way where we can do this on our website, to where we're doing it the right way, legally, I am all for it. I want people to know the information. Doing it this way is not the right way. We're not following the rules and the guidelines as a board, which you are a part of.
And Shannon has walked in, so it may be time to turn the floor over to her.
Well, do we want to do the police report first? Okay.
Let's burn this thing down.
Yeah.
Shannon?
Welcome.
Well, okay, one second. So that we can find a way to do it legally and have somebody that's not on the board doing it so that we can get the content out unbiased.
Yeah.
So every board member will be represented well. I asked that we contact our website webmaster to give us a proposal on doing something like that. And I'm not sure what all it entails. I think she'll help us out.
Right. So Lori had reached out to me last month and asked us just to do some research into it because we actually haven't had a district that's requested this before. And so I actually told her I wanted to come back in or come in and actually talk to you and I guess we walked in right at the right time because I need a little bit more information. There's some very easy solutions, but they might be one person centric. So, we would have the ability to basically have what's almost like a live little radio station, for the time that you're meeting anybody can come to that little station, they can listen in on that particular time, and you can use it each time you have a meeting. It actually allows people to, if you want them to comment and ask questions and that sort of interaction. I didn't test the system out because I wasn't sure if it's something that you would just, you could have a tablet sitting on the desk and everybody could, speak towards it and it would broadcast it out. But if you needed something a little bit more intricate, then that was something that, we don't have experience with because we don't do, audio video. I know of some districts that have, microphones, televisions, and that sort of thing, and they broadcast it out to YouTube and things along those lines. But there's a few inexpensive solutions for basically just broadcasting out the signal through an app. It would be a system that we could set up and we would, cover the cost and just bill you back a very short, small fee each month. And then you could just have
No, that sounds perfect.
A tablet of some sort that could just be the app holder.
Would it be to our website, existing website? That's what the statute calls for.
So
it has to be linked one click away from our website.
Right on the homepage.
So that's what you're talking about.
Here's how you press this button to have the live stream of the
Mike, are these speakers?
They're not.
Okay.
Well, they're speakers, but I think they just go to the TV.
Any one of us could apply that to this website. We wouldn't need a specific person that if they didn't show up.
Right.
So,
we can set up a
because
generic
I'm not
login
very
for it.
computer illiterate, so I just want to know that I can do it, or we usually will have. Lori may not be here one time, so we need to know that any board member could set that up.
Yeah, well, we could set it up for you,
Yes.
but we could have a generic account that if you happen to log out, you could have the information log right back in.
Okay, that's good.
And
It
you
sounds
just hit
simple,
stream, and then you start talking. We would just need to do a little bit of testing to see what the sound quality is like.
Okay, that would be important.
So it would, I guess, mean the district purchasing a
Microphones
laptop or tablet. That's simple enough and inexpensive, I understand.
Yeah,
but,
we could probably find we could probably get an iPod Touch.
But it does require that. That's all
okay.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you would just need
Once
something, an Android or an Apple device,
Right.
Or I think you can actually do it through a computer too. So if you had a computer, you could put it on there.
Okay.
I just think that'd be nice. You guys could have,
No,
you can hold on to it for you and.
It sounds like for $100. You mentioned $100.
Well, like an iPod, like what's the cheapest?
Within a few $100, it
Yeah,
still would be
couple
something
$100.
we could apply to this.
We wouldn't need to get like a $1,000 iPad or anything like
But
that.
would we be required to have microphones all across here for everybody?
Well, see, that was the thing that I was going to have to see just coming in to talk to you to kind of see what the requirements were as to what kind of quality and everything you're looking for.
Well, let's try this and see if we get the quality we need out of it. Is there somebody that we could use?
Well, you know what I could do? I can just come back out with my device.
Okay.
And we can test it
All
just
right.
with something that we have, and we can see
And
how the
then,
sound quality is.
Do you have any range of costs that it would take to add this to the website for you to manage this?
Oh, it would probably take a half an hour to embed it into the site, so $50, and then
Okay.
I think the monthly fee for the service was like $25.
So I think we need a quote from you to state that, and I'm sure we can do that.
Yeah.
Does that go into some kind of MP3 format?
I didn't look that far into it.
Okay, because there's going to be record retention issues
Right,
here
that's
too.
going to be my next question is, you were talking about broadcasting it.
Well, and I haven't
Does
done
it
it.
keep a recording?
Yeah, I'll check.
Okay.
There's another district that I work with that doesn't stream, but they do record, and then we post the audio recordings.
I mean,
That's
that could probably.
So I mean, if you don't need it to be real time, and you
That's
don't
good.
because you don't need people to interact with you, then you could just.
Well, they're asking just to be able to hear our business
Yeah.
for right now. So if we start with something like that and they want to interact some other way, this community of ours, if they want to interact on it, then that's fine. But I don't know
Then
how we could answer these questions or how we will receive a question if they have it. So I think we start simple.
Yeah.
Any other ideas?
The district that records theirs,
Yeah.
I'll find out what they use to record
Okay,
it with,
okay.
because you can hear all the board members during the discussion,
Okay.
and then we can just get a device that you can use. And then, the file's large, and they Dropbox it to us, but it's not big.
And we just can save that on a computer. That recording we can now just save on a computer for our record.
Yeah. We could get it.
And it'll be on our
them.
website too, so they could go back and listen to it.
Yeah, we could have an archive of all
Yes,
of them on there.
okay.
If you go to Brazos Mud 1,
Yeah.
bcmud1.com, they have audio recordings on their site.
This gentleman back here had a question.
Yeah, we'll catch it. I just want to make sure y'all have any other questions right now before I catch this guy. Do you have any other questions right away? Sir, do you have something?
Yeah, just a few questions. As far as the website, do you know what last month hit count was on your website?
I do.
What was it?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I can find it out for you.
Just ballpark figure.
I couldn't. I mean,
Hundreds?
so I
No, I used to track it, and it used to be like 5
500?
People.
5.
Okay, so my next question would be, with dealing with all of this, where we know what sound quality would be already off of, say, an iPhone, going through Facebook, where your hit count on one of the last meetings was probably in the hundreds, if not thousands, and that's free. Wouldn't it be easier to set up a Facebook page for the board and to have the meetings go there instead of somebody trying to find an obscure website to try to find the video? And the other question that pertains to that is, if that site's down, or if there's technical difficulties and you keep running into that, and people keep thinking that things are not on the up and up, isn't that something else we'd like to avoid if we're looking for access to the public? And the majority of the information out there wouldn't be through Brazos1.net or whatever the site is. It's through a social media
Well, you can
platform.
link it.
It's
You can
public.
link it.
Right.
Any individual can link it.
Right. And
Please finish.
the issue of the broadcasting, the statute is clear that it has to be on a website and it has to be a click away. It can't be on a social media website. Now, that doesn't mean you can't then link to that.
The statute specifically states social media?
The statute doesn't. No, the statute specifically does not state social media, because the purpose of the statute is to make sure that the entire public has access to it on a one-click public website.
So my other question is, you have Facebook, which is social media, and then you have your district website.
The district doesn't have Facebook.
No, that's not what I'm saying. You have a district website that you want to post to.
Right.
You also have social media that you could post to.
Right.
They're both online. I'm not seeing the difference in, you're saying you have to post to a district.
But everybody
website,
doesn't have Facebook. That's the
Right.
deal. Everybody's not on Facebook. We have 3,800 families, our homes in Imperial Oaks, and I don't know how many are on Facebook, but if they were not, they wouldn't have opportunity to tune into this if it was on Facebook, because they don't have Facebook.
And to the district's defense, the website, if you put in the MUD district's name, it comes up first. So, I mean, if people are interested in finding the MUD, then they can find it.
I mean,
they can get to the website pretty
what I
easily.
take from that, though, is that it wouldn't be a terrible idea if we had both, because then we would reach more people.
Do you think that people would have more access to a MUD district website than are on Facebook?
Why wouldn't they not? Because if they got Facebook, they have the internet. They could go to the Rayford Road MUD as well.
But I don't think you're. I think you're seeing this from a point of. I heard a comment that was made last month. This board has never been on Facebook and never will be on any type of social media. That statement was made.
Well,
And for people like me, this is the first meeting I've been to, and maybe the only one I could ever make. I travel for work all the time. I'm rarely home, but I want to be a part of the community. And trying to hunt down the website that's, to be fair, at this point, no one's ever even looked into it. You know, it had to take somebody else just trying to inform the public for us to get all up in an uproar, but nobody's been concerned with trying to get this media out to the public so we all know what's going on. There have been many statements that have been made. If they wanted to know, they would be here. But I guarantee you talk to 95% of our neighbors, no one even knows where this building is. No one knows that you guys even hold meetings.
Whoa, sir.
No, don't tell me to hold up.
No, I'm not telling you to hold up, but let me
finish.
Let me tell you something.
Let me finish, please, sir. I'm the one out there talking to my neighbors.
I am too.
I'm the one out there walking the streets dealing with everybody. I'm the one online making comments and reading comments. You guys are telling me your grandchildren had to tell you 3 days after it was up that something was going on, and then you got upset. Not because the information got out there, because people were making comments that weren't in your favor.
Well, you're not saying anything true, so you had your
say.
We're going to move on, and
these are legitimate points that we need to discuss.
And we've heard you. We appreciate it. So
Could we make one
like
at least
child.
comment?
I like the second one.
You should get an Imperial Oaks newsletter every month.
Never gotten one. I've been here 2 years.
Okay,
I've
well,
never gotten
That's
one
not our
newsletter.
fault.
Well, just hold up. That's because you've not gone to the office and signed up. That's your fault. It's not theirs.
It's there.
Okay? Every month is posted.
You're right.
This meeting, where it is, the time it is, the date it is. By law, the meeting has to be posted
Well, let's not
every
go
month.
above the law. Let's not go beyond and do something more for the community. Let's follow the bare minimum.
Well,
The point is not trying to hide stuff.
We're doing this because it's required by the law to go to our website. And you can link it to anywhere you want. You could take that
Do you think it's more legitimate to spend tens of thousands of dollars looking this in, or to just...
Well, we're not spending tens of thousands of dollars.
You said 5 or 6
she
already,
said
right?
$75 a month.
You said 5 or 6,000 already, right? And then you said, and we're not done.
No, that's to review the legal,
Right.
so that we can conform with the law. That is what that is for.
The opinion of the law, right? Her opinion.
No,
There's already been another opinion presented.
Like I said, a lawyer's opinions are like.
So let me ask you this. What's the dollar amount that we're willing to go through as a board?
Well, as much as it takes so that you could see it. I mean, you're sitting here telling us you want to see it. So
I've been able to see it for free.
Well,
You can see it for free on the website, sir.
We were not able
okay.
to do it legally.
That's true.
We can't continue doing this way because what if we didn't put our agenda out there?
Nobody knows your agenda right now.
But whose fault is that?
I mean,
Whose fault? Do you have the address of everyone in this neighborhood? When was the last time a newsletter was mailed out to everybody?
we don't mail out newsletters.
Exactly. How much money would that take?
We've never had a request for any newsletter. I mean, there's never been one person.
You just do a newsletter up in my face.
No, they
That was the POA newsletter,
POA.
sir. That was the POA newsletter. It
Okay.
goes to
That's all
3,800
he's talking
homes.
about, yeah.
Does that get mailed out?
It goes
It's on the website.
online. It is
Online.
emailed
Sign
out.
up online.
Everybody was made aware. That
I think the point that we can take from it is that there is a possibility that we can go above and beyond, and that people are busy, and maybe we can do more to try to reach out versus just telling people if they
Your
want to.
neighbors feel like you guys don't care.
Well, as soon as it was.
Why would you make that statement?
Because
I live in
they're telling
Imperial
you
Oaks.
online, you guys don't care.
And who presented that? Who started that? We've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I've been on this board for almost 10 years.
It's every day on Imperial Oaks
everywhere.
Facebook
There's
page.
only 76 comments on there, and it's not everybody. I mean,
This is coming from your Facebook profile that you looked at, or the one your granddaughter let you look at on
Let's
her?
leave grandchildren out of this. We may have a little gray hair, but we do have some smarts, okay?
Well, I assure you that a lot of us are concerned with
Let's
that.
leave family out.
Then they can come to the meeting.
This is what I'm talking about, how petty it gets like that.
Just like you have. You have made it that way. You have made it that way.
It is completely
Gentlemen.
No.
It is, you're right. You're right. This is completely my issue.
Gentlemen, I'm going to suggest to the board president that he begin to go through the agenda and that the board begin to do its business. It is not productive for us to argue with members of the audience. It is productive for members of the audience to be here and to know what's going on. We're glad you're here. Welcome. Keep coming back. Keep educating yourself. But the board needs to do the board's business now, and we need to get back to talking to Shannon about how this might work, how this could work. The gentleman makes a good point that maybe Facebook, there's ways to tie back to Facebook that go above and beyond the statute. But the statute says it needs to be through an internet website, the district's website. I want you to stay in compliance with the statute. There may be ways to go above and beyond that, and you can certainly consider that and talk about that. But the board needs to get back to the board's business here.
I'll tag on to that. When we were talking about the AWBD conference, the thing that I was going to report on was mostly about that. But seeing as that had been such a contentious issue, I just didn't report on that. So they had to do with the MUD that was doing exactly that.
So let's go back and for a few minutes and talk about Shannon. So we talked about two things here where the conversation got a little bit muddled, because first we were talking about the possibility of broadcasting, live broadcasting, which brings into the 551128 requirements. Then there was discussion about simply recording it and then making the recording available. And so the board can decide now or decide to ask Shannon to bring back more specific proposals on each, or what is the board's pleasure on this subject? And I needed some clarification because we got going two directions here. So.
Yes, I am myself am interested in the you say iPad or
just an iPod, just something.
Just an iPod.
The basic
All
one,
it
yeah.
needs. iPod. Let's test that out. You seem to be able to do it for under $100 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the
You'll
streaming, for
yeah.
the live streaming, yeah.
Mm-hmm. To that website.
Yeah.
Okay. So what would it take to extend that to Facebook?
So we could.
We have to hit the website first, then go to Facebook.
So we would have to set up a Facebook page for you.
We can't just send that to. They have resident pages already.
Oh,
we
if
just
you wanted
broadcast
us
from
to
that?
supply the link
Can we just send it to
the
that?
HOA,
To the
POA.
Imperial Oaks or
Yeah.
somewhere.
They could do whatever they want there.
If they could have like a standing link on their site back over to yours,
Okay.
letting people know that that's where they could go to.
Well,
this.
just FYI, the POA does not have a Facebook page.
Right. No, I don't want a Facebook page for the MUD. I just want to be able to get it to the resident
I
page.
just wanted
That's
to
where a lot of people
clarify
will see
that. I
it.
just wanted to clarify
Yeah.
that.
So I want to get it back to the Facebook page, so you can help us with that.
Most of the districts that we work with don't ever have Facebook, usually because it's not recommended.
I don't want a Facebook for the MUD. I just
Right,
want to send it out at the same time we broadcast on our page, then we send that to that resident page if that's possible.
Right, and if you, not yourselves, but if the districts that have the most success with making sure that people find out stuff through Facebook, usually because they have residents that are nice at sharing that information.
Of course.
Yeah,
That's
not
why
to
I would
everybody
expect
else.
it to go.
Yeah.
I would expect it to go that way.
Yeah.
Well, let's just start out then to our website, and then we'll see if the residents will take that and go to Facebook.
Okay, so
And
live
then-
stream.
John, could I add one thing? Could the cost estimate be both ways, because it was mentioned initially streaming? So do it. Could you provide us the estimate streaming or just
Recording.
record it
Sure.
and put available to
Yep.
people on the website? Thanks.
So let me be clear, you're asking for a proposal, or you're asking?
Yeah, let's go with Jim's
What-
proposal for both,
And-
and then we'll just decide at our next meeting which way we're going to do it once you make the proposal.
And real quick, the open meetings training I did a couple months ago, it mentions Facebook pages can be be used. And at that AWBD conference, there was a lady that was talking about during Hurricane Harvey how they kind of got tired of other people saying, you were mentioning how people share. And then a lot of times it's a game of telephone. And so it would be nice to, it almost sounds like you might even be someone that could do it, that if there was a communication that needed, they talked about having a communication person that is not the board. If there's an emergency or something, that you are able to use extra avenues to reach people. That's all.
What we set up for is that we have an email system on our website. So then we can get those messages.
I understand. I'm just sharing what some of these other MUDs are starting to do.
We can promote that now that we're live streaming right now. Go to RayfordRoadMUD.com, sign up for the emails, alerts, and when we have emergencies or important information, we will send it out on an email alert. And so please go to the RayfordRoadMUD.com and sign up for that email alert. It comes up right when the page opens. It comes up and you have the opportunity to sign up.
I think you told me there was like 50 people signed up.
Yeah, the last time you
there was like,
so we have 50 people, you see. We have a lot of the community there. And if we can get 1,500, it would be awesome. Yeah. But from what we were told when we got that system, that usually 40% are only, after an emergency, that's when 40% signed up. So, but that's good. I mean, if we could get 40%, if we could get anybody participating in our community with our MUD, we would love it. I mean, we want to act on behalf of you guys from what you're telling us, and that's what we're doing. As soon as we found out that we have interest in this, we're acting on it at the very next meeting.
Right. And the truth is, I mean, I know everybody promotes Facebook, but if everybody learns where your website is, either through promotion of other people's Facebook page, through your POA, that becomes the resource that people can trust the word on, because your website is the fact. And we work with over 90 districts. None of them, I think one has a Facebook page. They pay a guy $3,000 a month to manage that page for them. And so most of them don't have it. And during Harvey, when we were going through everything with the Fort Bend lids on the Brazos River, the districts that were putting the information up on their website, putting everything up there, people go there and they know what's going on. So you just have to get the word out, and that's all you need.
Yeah, because Facebook, during our last Harvey, there were so many false stories on there about our MUD that I had to go and respond to them. I mean, and I'm not one to normally go and respond, but I had to because they were all lies. That
was the point of what I said earlier, to go and correct them.
And she says, though, that most of the stuff on Facebook people can't rely on. So if we go to our website to do it, if we go to our emails, is the way we need to go.
I mean, you call and get reference.
I'm sympathetic to the gentleman who wants to understand, Facebook is a tool that lots of people use. Nextdoor is a tool that lots of people use. And I use both those tools personally myself, but I've also, in this career, been doing this 27 years. I see more misinformation on Facebook and Nextdoor than I see good information, a lot of, especially with regard to districts. So you have to be, I like what Shannon is saying about publicizing your website as a place for people to go, because the problem with Facebook and Nextdoor is that anybody can post on them, and they'll post, I heard la 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 la, and then somebody else heard such and such and so, and by the time as you were saying, it becomes a game of telephone where you sit in a circle and tell.
And imagine,
and by the time it gets back around the room, you don't recognize it. So.
Imagine instead of John saying something or me saying something, and then us worrying about quorum issues, which that's a whole other thing.
That's right,
that there was a Rayford Road MUD page that could go out to one of those posts. Maybe Lori has the key to it that says, "Hey, no, that's not true." And it's not coming from one of us. It's coming as a representation of the board. We can talk about that down the road, but I think that is where you're starting to merge the two, and you're telling people, you're just pulling links from our site, and you're sharing them through every platform available.
Because now I've commented on one of James's broadcasts. I commented on that. So now me and James are on that. So if one other board member goes on there and likes it, we violated the open meetings. Now we are we could probably be thrown off the board right away.
What were you thinking, John?
Well,
Just kidding.
trust
And that is a worrisome
it's
thing about-
hard for me not to put information about our mud on there because I've got a lot of positive things I want to share. But because James is on there a lot, now that it makes it complicated.
Right.
Well, you are a person in attendance. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I know. I don't want to take
So
that chance.
so
you
is
know,
Craig Doyle. And
And-
how many hundreds of thousands of dollars later are we on that one?
Well,
So
that
being-
case is an appeal. Like
Correct.
he
And
has
that's-
not. He's innocent
Yeah,
until.
you want to go
You don't want to be on appeal.
Right, you don't want
That's
to
the
be
whole
there.
point.
That's me over here, giving the conservative.
Well, I tend to believe people are innocent until proven
You
guilty.
don't want to be have
Right.
to prove you're
You don't
innocent.
have to
You
prove.
know, you talk about being busy, I have just enough time to make the meeting for the most part, It's very important to me, though. I had a service call today on the way, and I asked him, could I go at 7:30 tonight?
Hey, I wanted to show you one more thing too. We do these little postcard mailers now. We've been doing it for about 6 months. So if you ever decide you want to do a job of kind of publicizing it out to the people in your neighborhood that you have a website, whether it's about like hurricane season or that you can go to the website and get to know the district, these are something that we can get mailing list data from them, or we can get it from our printer and mail these out to every resident.
We can
These
take-
are this is a nice way to build the list, because I know that they can put something on the water bill, but that doesn't always get the word out. So.
Well, I've seen this too, and I just don't, I've asked my neighbors when we do things like that, and they just can't tell me any information about that.
Right.
I think
So-
Spring Creek is a good site to look at. They seem to be doing a lot of things.
We could put signs at the entrances. We could ask
That's
the
a great
POA
way.
to put it on their sign, an electronic sign. So let's decide that. If we want signs, we could ask Mike to.
Put them out.
I remember when Graywood did it, they had 8 districts. They had 4 MUDs and 1 lit in their neighborhood, and when they went live with their website, they put a sign in the entranceway, the main one. They had 1,000 people go to the website within 2 days.
And so that goes, let's get back to now. You've been very responsive. If we ever ask you a question, you respond almost immediately. So if we have an emergency, do we need a board member? Do we need Lori? Do we need Mike to manage that message?
So it usually comes from
Yeah.
all of the above.
Yeah.
Well, we have no board member that can get into that system right now.
No, she's the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are the
Yeah.
one, right?
One.
Yeah.
So during a storm, you will be able to respond.
Yep.
Okay.
We have a whole team in place for it.
Okay, I see. Oh, you have a whole team. Okay. All right. That sounds like that's all good, right? Okay. So it's just a matter now of promoting our email too. But then that's another story. That's another.
Well, and still, I guess at the end of the day, I want the board to tell us, as for next month, we're simply coming back with more detailed proposals on live streaming, on recording, or
Can we test this next month?
or do
Okay.
if you
so
want to test, then
bring
you've got to
something.
wait. Are you testing the? You can set this up so we can live stream next
Yeah.
month. Then, if the board decides that and tells me that,
Notice.
tell me that so I can make sure I put it on.
Why can't
the
it just
agenda
be
correctly.
tested for audio quality rather than
So
going
We can
immediately
wait a
to
week
live
or
stream?
wait a
That
month.
seems like a big step, personally, to
Okay.
go immediately to that.
Yeah,
I'm
in
only
case
one of the
it
board
doesn't
members.
work.
I'm an individual, but I'm also a board member, and I would.
Well, you're right,
I would,
but-
Y'all are starting
I
to
think it's a
defend me.
big step. I think it's a big
Well,
step to
that's
go
right.
straight to
Because
that.
if we do it and it's not quality, then we don't look very.
Yeah, I think to me that's the starting
Okay.
point.
Well, bring us back.
So bring back proposals and the ability to do a quick audio test at the next month.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
And then we'll ask Mike about how we could do some signage around the neighborhood to promote the email. Once we get to his report, we'll ask him if he can do something.
And we're done with this research, right? We're not spending any money on
I hope
this.
that we're not spending any more.
Well, nobody's asking, right?
Nobody's asking.
Okay.
Well, I think there's still a question as to which rules we were going by. You
Right,
had both.
but-
There's some question about
I'm
that.
going to get to the point, if the board tells me you want to
consider
broadcast it, I'm going to
just
comply.
so-
I'm going to do all the
I got that
128
from you.
procedures.
I got oh yeah, just a minute.
Okay, we'll wait for your proposal. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
My
Shannon.
pleasure.
Wow.
Came just
Thank
in
y'all.
time.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You had a long ways to drive, I think. We appreciate it.
Okay. Now we have our.
Not today. Almost.
Okay, our next item on the agenda is a law enforcement report, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Howdy, everybody. New board member, I've seen you in the meetings, but I haven't met you. I'm Corporal Vogel.
Nice.
Corporal in Pearl.
Nice to meet you.
July stat, Not very much. The second highest call volume that we had besides the traffic stops was vacation watches, a bit bigger summer. So, no real major calls. 394 contract calls, 247 traffic contacts, 27 reports, 1 felony arrest, 5 misdemeanor arrests, and 3 charges filed. Not too much to report on this one.
There was some gossip about someone running around through the neighborhood, jumping over fences. Do you know if that was somebody running through the neighborhood, jumping fences? I mean, when I read that through social media, I did see like 5 of our just constables going through the neighborhood. Does that sound familiar?
I don't think it was in the neighborhood. I think it was maybe out on Rayford Road.
Okay.
There was one.
It wasn't in this report. It would have been just last week.
Who was that?
It would have been just last week.
Yeah, it'll be
Just last, it's not on this report.
I haven't heard of anything like that. But bringing up social media, since that was part of it, I'll have a little comment on that.
Good.
Social media makes our job really, really hard because a person knocking on doors trying to sell cleaning material legit that we've already checked on 4 or 5 times, which I know most of y'all are aware that it's not illegal to solicit. It's just posted on a sign. We have no judicial authority to enforce that. But this guy that's going around trying to make money all of a sudden turns into there's somebody burglarizing every house in the neighborhood. And it goes on from that to that. And then we have people contacting our office wondering why we're not doing anything about this rash of burglaries that's going on in their neighborhood. So there are dangers on that, and that's all I got to say on that.
Can I ask you one thing about the report?
Yes.
We used to get, and Frank and I were talking about, we used to get a description of some of the activity that was attached
Did
to
y'all get it last month?
He normally brings it, but you're filling in.
Yeah, I'm filling in. I wasn't 100% sure.
Okay.
Because I know the HOA and y'all get different information. Oh, well, different information, but
Yeah.
y'all get more information than them.
Yeah, they probably don't. You don't share with the public the addresses and activities that way.
But what I can do is I'll print them out and start in Washington, or I can bring them to me.
Do you? Would you happen to know? And maybe this is a Bill question, but it looked like was there overtime or anything that would have driven up the cost?
There's typically always overtime. They fill in, but that's not for him.
Well, no, I just was checking to see if there was anything extra because it was more than what I.
This month?
Well,
Yeah.
2 pay periods this month.
Yeah, but they were at like 26, mid 26, and the other ones were at 24, 25 a pay period. So
there's always
Well,
a variance.
it depends on when they put their. It depends on when they put their insurance benefit on, because they don't put them on every invoice and all the sideline things. And then once a quarter, we get the quarterly invoice for the maintenance.
Okay.
Last month we had 3 pay periods and a quarterly maintenance. This month we had 2 pay periods.
Mm-hmm.
And there may have been some
And they
overtime.
break down each officer's benefits and costs, and there is overtime. There's
That's
always
I was going
overrunning.
to come into, sometimes at the end of our shift, we'll catch a call and end up staying 4 hours. So that's going to be extra overtime that you don't see normally every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get an idea of what the normal number is. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Anything else?
Anybody have a question for the officer?
Something that's very recent in my area, which is the old section, 30 years old or whatever.
Up front? Up front? Up front of the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay.
In that area, there's several old people now. The newer areas have a lot more newer people and younger people and children and things like that. And there's a correlation to a certain degree. The older people are trying to go out and enjoy their walks like they always do, but they have canes now, they have walkers, they have maybe a dog they're taking on a leash, and there have been many, I'll say what one word, many, there's been many incidences discussed about people being attacked by unattended dogs. So the question is, who should that be reported to? When they report it to the constables, it usually takes them, 10 minutes to come check it out. By that time, they're long gone. They report it to the animal control, same thing. They're reluctant to go around picking up animals. If they report it, in my opinion, to the POA as a deed violation, and when they're identified, the people responsible should be cited by the POA. And maybe.
Fine.
Do you agree with this, or?
Well, all I can speak of is the law enforcement part of it, and it's a gray area on the enforceable actions of dog bites. It's usually generally handled civilly. There are some classes available for if the dog's not on a leash, and that's pretty much the only one. But we as law enforcement can write. Animal control has more authority over that. So if it's there a dog bite, of course you need to be calling 911 and getting the ambulance out there, and also us responding. And if it's not a serious deal, then there's the dispatch sometimes refers it straight to animal control. I'm not quite 100% sure what your question was.
The question, from my point of view, is what's before the fact, what's after the fact. Once the incident has taken place, the only options are after the fact. By then it's too late. An 83-year-old person gets knocked down, breaks their hip, goes scurrying into the street to avoid an attacking dog, and a car comes down the street and just barely misses them. A child in the same
This is it's kind of what if that you're asking me. I can't answer for that because I don't know exactly what the deal is.
Just exactly what I'm saying.
What are you trying to clarify?
Like if there's a loose dog.
Yeah, we're talking about loose animals that are not being accountable under the deed restrictions who are causing havoc.
Well, we don't enforce deed restrictions. We do not enforce deed restrictions, and animal control is in charge of picking up dogs that are on the loose.
Which they're not doing.
Well, because by the time they get there, the dog's gone.
Right.
It's a hard area.
So what do you tell an 84-year-old woman who is being attacked? What's her recourse? Stay inside her house?
To call the constable's agency. To call the police.
What end result?
So what would you like for him to? What are you looking
that's
for?
My question.
What are you looking for?
Well, I don't know of anybody, because if animal control can't get there and the constable can't get there, what other option is there?
Go Mad Max.
Which is what I said in the very first statement. Go to the POA, report it as a deed restriction rule violation.
You'd have to
go
know
after the
owner.
Oh,
okay.
Is it a deed restriction?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is.
All dogs have to be under a leash in the house or in an enclosed backyard. Everything else is a deed
But you call the
restriction.
POA.
Call them first.
Then call the POA.
That's tomorrow.
Hang on. If you have that much information on the dog where you know where the owner is, that you're going to be able to report it to the POA for them to then mail a fine or a warning letter or whatever they do for first incident, then you have enough information for us as the constable's agency or the officer from animal control to do what they need to do on the incident. The issue is where it's very hard for us if there's no information about the dog. So you're going to have, in order to report it to the POA agency, you're going to have somebody has caught that dog or knows the dog, knows where it lives, it's a frequent dog that's out or whatnot. But if you have enough information to report it to the POA, then you have enough information for us to act on.
I think he's asking, what is your next step? If he calls in, say, a neighbor 3 doors down, whose dog keeps barreling out, and he calls the constable, what are the constables going to do?
We're going to refer to animal control.
Okay.
Does that
Well,
answer your question?
oh yeah. I mean, I appreciate it. And like someone up here said a little while ago on the social media thing, we got 3,700 families, houses here now, and where is everybody? And that's the whole point. We're, as a concerned resident, trying to get correct information to people who are asking for it. You know, they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. So they go to what they feel most comfortable with. And that's all I'm doing, is asking the questions that I'm saying out there.
Yeah, thank you. Before you leave, I just thought somebody asked me about parking. I don't know anything about parking on the corners, but it occurred to me that it was a legitimate safety concern if, when you're turning, there's a car near a stop sign that you'd be going into the other lane. Are there any traffic laws?
They have to be parked facing the direction of traffic, within 8 inches of the curb, not within 100 feet of the stop sign or intersection.
Okay, so that I didn't know. You said 100 feet? Do we enforce anything like that? I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I'm just...
Well, y'all don't. We do.
Right, okay. But that's not showing up on any of this. We don't have a whole bunch of problems like that.
That's not a stat that we generally report on the reports because it's very numerous.
Okay. Well, now I know how to answer that, so thank you.
Any other questions?
No. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, Christy with Best Trash, our quarterly report, please.
Yeah, hello. I'm Christy Layton with Best Trash. Just want to come and check, visit, see how things are going. On my end, it seems pretty quiet, but I want to make sure and see how's it going on y'all's end. Anything?
No, I think you're collecting very well. I did see some comments on social media that you've broken some lids on some trash cans. So if you could speak to the drivers and see if there's any way that, or anything that they're doing that might damage them. So
yeah, absolutely.
Don't turn them upside down. Maybe just give them a good refresh on that that you've heard about it. We don't want. I mean, our guys, as far as I know, they're outstanding.
Yeah.
Everything that I hear.
Yeah, I think so too. Everybody that we talk to that moved from other neighborhoods, I think we have exceptional trash service.
That's correct. So just that one comment, if you may, then let your. I've tried to stop and talk to these guys before. I wasn't very successful because I wanted to tell them that they're doing a fantastic job. So please tell them for us. I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but
yeah.
All right.
I have one question. What's the best way to get rid of an old trash can?
Oh, that was a good question. That is a difficult thing to
get rid of an old trash can.
Sounds like a parable.
You have to put a sign on it, or
yeah, when they put sign on it, they take the sign and throw that in the trash.
Oh my God. Highlight of the night.
Yeah, if there's a trash can you want to specifically throw away, you can call me at the office and I'll give them a notification and say, hey, this trash can is safe to take away. Oh yeah, I mean there've been trash cans with holes on it, and I'm like, really guys?
Yeah.
Come on.
It's not very common, but it is difficult.
Sometimes you have to throw them out about 3 times till they'll take it.
And that's okay.
They've got to cut it in half.
I don't want them picking up a good trash can because that could happen too.
If I need a new lid, do I just call the?
You can call the office and ask for me. My name is Christy. I did not bring any cards with me. So
No, it's fine. It's on. I know where to get the number. I just. For 2 years, I've been meaning to do that.
Or the recycle can, correct? Or his
yeah, if you have it, you need a recycle can?
No, I have that. I just, when I moved in, the lids were broken.
Oh, I got you.
So there you go.
Okay.
There's a broken lid.
John,
All right, good.
John, could I make a comment?
Please.
If you want to talk to the drivers and the men working the back of the truck, if you'll go out there with 3 Gatorades in hand, they'll be happy to stop.
They'll understand that we're happy. Okay, good.
Wait, you said you recycled anything?
That's a good idea. Very good.
My wife.
I mean, I don't. Yeah.
Like the wheel or the
Well, just the
crack in it?
lid. But I can call. I don't want to
okay.
spend any more
Because I can
time.
take your address and get it switched out.
I'll send it. I'll
Okay.
I just.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
right.
no other comments. Thank you so much for
Thank
your patience
Yeah.
and
See you in a few
reporting
months.
to
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Paul, our status of abacus brief regarding litigation between FARA and City Commonwealth.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
And maybe introduce yourself a little bit for anybody.
Yes. Be happy to.
Litigation attorney that we've asked to look for at
Yes.
this.
Yep, absolutely. I work with Lori. My name is Paul Raddick. I'm a trial attorney, and I handle all of the disputed matters at our firm. I came from a very big firm where I was partner and have a lot of courtroom experience. And so when you hear me pipe up, it's because I just don't want anybody getting in trouble. It's not fun when my directors are in court. Even if you win, it's not a ride you want to take. I can assure you of that. So I'm here tonight to update you on our amicus brief. And Lori, more specifically, maybe asked me to come and answer some whatever questions you may have. I'm very studied on the situation, and so I want to provide you the information that you find is useful. I'm a lawyer, so I like to hear myself talk. I can talk about this. I've read 500 pages of material, probably. There's a ton of information that I can give you. So I'm just going to start in, but y'all guide me through whatever you want to hear. So what you've asked us to do is to prepare a brief for you, and brief is a good word for it because we don't want to make it too long. If it's long, the courts don't want to read it. These cases, there are 3 appeals pending. Well, one of them's already been resolved, but there's 2 lawsuits, 3 appeals. It's a total mess. And so what we want to do is make a short, concise statement to the courts as to why what we think is important and what we think they ought to take into consideration in ruling. And so what we're talking about here is this dispute with the River Authority over its rate increase that was effective, I think it was September of 2016. And what's interesting there is the rate increase came about not because of increased cost to the authority, it came about because of decreased demand from the authority. So we had higher than usual rainfall for a few years that came after that terrible drought that we had. And so it required people to take less water. And so you're members of this GRP, this groundwater reduction plan, and as one of the 80 large groundwater user members of the GRP, basically there has to be enough money to pay for the facilities and the bonds that were passed to create these facilities. And when there's less demand, there's less money that comes in to pay for it. And so when that happens, the authority raises the rates, and it affects all of the constituents, all the parties to the program. And so we have a very large dispute that's going on, and what I've done is I have a draft of the amicus brief. It'll be on file well before your next meeting, maybe on file this week. I don't like to make total commitments because every time I do that, then something crazy happens during the week, but we're very close to having it ready for you. It's 2 to 3 pages, and what it does is it simply sets out what we care about, which is we need a resolution. We've kind of advised you that I don't think it's wise to necessarily take a position at this juncture on the matter, on the merits of it. Certainly not in a public forum yet. That's something we need to discuss in executive session. But what the dispute involves is, as you recall, Lone Star Groundwater was created to put in place groundwater pumpage restrictions. Those restrictions are pretty intense. And it's what they're after is a valid end, right? Because we have subsidence that affects flooding. And there wasn't really a way for individual users to efficiently or cost-effectively comply with those standards. So we created a GRP, and it was sort of something that was sponsored by the River Authority that said, come into this big program, we'll all share the costs, and we'll provide you the water. And so what has happened after that rate increase is Conroe, Splendora, and Magnolia all said enough is enough. We're tired of paying increased rates, and it's gotten to the point where we think it's excessive. And several, maybe 4 or 5 private utilities, Quadvest, Woodland Oaks, several others, joined that suit. It's a very large suit. And they filed in Montgomery County to overturn it's not legislation, it's rules, but it's the mandate from Lone Star that underpinned all of this GRP work. They filed suit to overturn that and say that they've stepped outside their legislative authorization and that the regulations that led us all to where we are not proper. So if they're successful, the whole GRP goes away. and then we got to start from scratch. And it may be that it's good news or bad news, because if the restrictions are removed, then you don't have to deal with it anymore. But if it's one of those things where it's like school financing, where the Supreme Court every 10 years has to rewrite the law on it, it's just going to be a big bloody mess. So that case is what started all of this. That went to appeal. It's already been sent back down, and the Beaumont Court of Appeals said the city of Conroe et al. Can pursue their lawsuit. So Lone Star was attempting to challenge whether you could even do the lawsuit, and the Court of Appeals said, yes, you can. So what you've asked us to involve ourselves in is not that case, but it's the companion set of cases that rose out of that. In response to that rulings, SGRA went to Austin under a special statute and said, courts, bail us out of this situation. This looks like it could get really bad. We're going to try to preempt it all. And so they filed a lawsuit that, if they are successful, would be binding on this board, whether or not you're involved in the case. It's a very technical statute. I've tried 2 cases under it. It's never been applied in this setting. But what it does is it says if bonds are involved, we can put notice in the newspaper, and anyone affected by the bonds is bound to this judgment that happens in 20 days. It's a crazy statute. Whether or not you even know about it, whether you read the newspaper or not, we've talked about notice a lot. A lot of times a notice under Texas law is very unfair because there just aren't efficient ways to do notice. And so it would bind this board, Southern Montgomery County MUD, all 80 participants to the result. So it's actually a very big deal. And I think it's turned out to be wise that you've directed us to be involved in this matter, because we need to be paying attention to it, because it will affect you, whatever the result is. So long story short on that, and I'm happy to answer whatever details you may have. You may not want any more details. But the long story short is there are 2 appeals pending in Austin right now out of that Travis County suit the River Authority filed to try to preempt everything. And I have my views on the merits of them. I think generally, I don't generally believe what the River Authority has done is proper procedurally, but that I might not be right on that. But either way, this board is affected by it, and it means you're probably paying too much for your water, if that makes sense. If the water authority is charging too much, you're being overcharged. If the water authority is charging correctly, you're subsidizing the plaintiffs that are filing these contests because they've stopped paying the higher rate. That was part of what drove all of this. So what we're doing and what we've decided would be the right approach is to simply say, hey, courts of appeals, it's already been 2 years, and we're not even off the bottom floor. I know that's hard to believe, but the justice system moves very, very slowly. And what you have here is, because it's such a special set of circumstances, there are certain rulings that almost never appear. I've handled a bunch of them, but they really are rare, where you can appeal issues at the very beginning of the case. And they have 2 of those issues in this case. And both of them, of course, doing what lawyers do, were appealed separately, right? Because then we get to charge our clients to write 2 briefs. And so that's just how it works. Some free commentary here. And so we really aren't even off the ground floor. Regardless of what happens in the Court of Appeals, it's going to go to the Texas Supreme Court. And regardless of what happens there, we're going to be back to square one. Either that case will be thrown out and we go back to Montgomery County, or they'll say that case was the right place to be, so let's get it going. So it's just a really crazy situation. And what I personally don't like about it is, y'all are the ones that are suffering, and your constituents are the ones suffering by this, because you're continuing to pay the rate. And I'm not suggesting you shouldn't, but that's why we care about it, right? Because y'all are paying while this dispute goes on, and there's no end in sight. So what we're asking the Court of Appeals, in a very as polite a way and a professional way as we can, especially knowing that we may have to intervene in this case eventually, because it will affect us if it's allowed to go forward. So we don't want to tell anybody they're not doing a good job or anything like that, especially if the meeting's recorded and it creates a permanent record about what we're saying in here. So we have to be very careful about it. And so in the brief, what we're saying is, we don't have a position on the merits, but what our position is, we're paying no matter what happens, and we're overpaying either way, with whichever side. So please do something quickly, and do something that is as expansive as you can. See, what courts often want to do is they want to make narrow rulings, right? Because they don't want to overstep their bounds. But what we want to encourage here is, because there's so much at stake, and it's water and it's taxpayer money, We really want you to be comprehensive in your analysis in this case, so that way we can stop the dispute as soon as possible. And so that's what, subject to your input, that's what we intend to file as a brief that says that. It's a please act, here's why we care, and we just ask that you act soon and comprehensively so that we can continue to protect our taxpayers and preserve our resources.
Okay.
And have you filed something similar that did you get action on? What should we expect? I mean, anything that you could say?
Well, sure. It's really hard to know.
I'm sure, but
yeah, exactly. You pay a lot of money to hear that we're not sure what the answer is,
well,
right?
But it's important, I think, what you're doing. Still.
It
I'm not
is.
saying that, yeah.
So amicus briefs are important because what we're telling the court is there may be some issues you're not focused on, right? Because the parties care about what they're focused on. They don't care what anybody else is focused on.
Okay.
And so it's important to do that. I think it's very important in a case like this because it has the tendency to continue to mushroom. I've written and participated in writing numerous amicus briefs at various levels of our judicial system. We have seen footnotes in appellate opinions referencing amicus briefs that I've participated in. We've also seen opinions where there are excerpts where it's literally verbatim from amicus briefs that we've written. So they can be very effective. So it's an important thing to do. There's no way to know what will happen here, but what I have seen is the courts do pay attention to it. These are good justices. That's the good news. The Austin Court of Appeals, I've practiced in Austin for a long time. It is an excellent court, and the justices that you have are very good justices.
And we're going in with another fairly large MUD. They're going in on this with us. There's two of us that are doing it, and so that's a good bit of attention to see that how many people are being affected. It's a number. Or are there any other MUDs that have approached doing this that we know of?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, the interesting thing, though, I will answer that.
Yeah.
The two MUDs are two of the top 10 water producers.
Okay.
And so that's noted in our brief. Just tell the Court of Appeals this is a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
There have been amicus briefs filed in these proceedings by others, not
there
by
has,
MUD.
right now?
Yes, sir, there have.
Okay.
And I didn't get to tell you that. I found that out today. I mean, literally, there's 3 appellate cases and 2 trial court cases, and I've been doing everything I can to read it all. It's literally a mountain of information. But the amicus briefs that have been filed were filed in the Beaumont series of cases, not in the Austin cases, but they're all related, and they were filed by a bunch of districts that side with the River Authority and Lone Star. So it was other large water suppliers, not the user side. Okay. So we're going to be the first from the user side.
And should we, I don't know if it's our business to go out and ask other MUDs to do the same thing as we're doing with this, would it help?
I do believe the more participants we have, the better it would be, yes. There's no doubt about it.
Although we'll have to ask Lori to go write a letter to some of the other MUDs that we choose to ask them and tell them what we're doing.
Yes,
would it be important? Would it help?
I think it would help. So what we have to be aware of there is we have to be specific in what we want to ask them to do. There's no doubt in my mind that the bigger constituent group, the better it is for us. A couple things to keep in mind there, though. If they are, both of the MUDs that are writing this brief are represented by our firm, so we can write the brief the way we want to.
Okay.
If it requires other MUDs, because it has to be MUDs within the service territory of the River Authority. It can't be some random MUD that doesn't have a stake in the matter. If it's not represented by our firm and they're involved, we lose control over the work product to some extent, unless they were willing to hire our firm.
We have some other large, we have Spring Creek and MUD 119. They're probably...
Well, we can also lead by example.
They're not
if they see us doing it.
Okay.
Yes, and we can certainly make them aware after we do it. That's true.
I mean, that might be the easier. The part of my reason for not involving anybody at the outset is just the speed issue.
Okay.
Right.
That's good.
It's more cooks in the kitchen issue.
Right. I mean, it's not.
And we'll have a document that'll be public that could be something others could use.
Yes.
We could share it with them.
Yes, and that would be perhaps even more attractive to them, because at that point then you can file what we call Me Too briefs, where you basically say, theirs is even shorter.
Careful with the meaning there.
We like what these people said, we agree with it, we adopt their reasoning. You know, you can, and then we get more and more people in front of them on that.
Well, that was the question we had as a board before. How many should we include in this? And we think that we're good with 2.
I think it's totally fine what we've got, because we have 2 very substantial MUDs.
Okay.
2 of the top 10.
Okay.
And so that creates, when you have Conroe and some of the other cities, it's basically the big players are involved.
Are there any other questions, guys, on this? Lawyer, we set with, we voted on this and to a certain amount.
Yeah.
Are we still within that amount?
I think we're still within the.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be close. It's going to be close. We're doing the best we can, and I've committed to stay under that. It is going to be close because there's so many. There's 5 lawsuits, 2 trial court, 3 appeals. It's a lot of.
And that's okay. I just want to make sure that we are. Because there's 2 of us, we both have to agree to pay that.
Sure.
And that we're not falling behind that. I want to make sure you can continue. And
perfect.
Right, and we're there.
We're under the limit right now.
Okay.
So if we get close, we'll definitely let you know what's going on.
Thank you so much for coming by.
Yes, my pleasure.
Thanks, Paul. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Really helped.
All right. Now, our citizen comments, and we sure are glad to have you here. And I would ask anybody to tell us if we're doing anything good or bad, or if you got a question for us, please.
I know at least this gentleman has a water bill issue that I think.
Oh, you have a water bill? We usually take that up, should we take that up under Mike?
I promised him that.
Oh, okay, no, then go ahead. Let's get it done right now.
I haven't been here, so I'll try to be fast.
No, take your time.
Come here or write a letter.
No, it would help that you're here. It does help, yes, sir.
Guide me along if I'm rambling.
Just take your time and don't worry about any of that. Yeah.
Basically, I'm here before y'all this evening. I received my bill June 6th meter read to July 7th. The bill was $1,059. It says that I used 132,000 gallons of water, which that's over. I have 7.5 year history since I've lived in this home. And I came up here today, and young lady up here printed off for me. I mean, that's essentially over a year's worth of water supply in 1 month. I called up here, y'all came out, had a field supervisor come out, tested the meter, said it appears that it is off. So they took it off, sent it to, I think it's third party company that tested.
It's a lab that tested, yes.
So they came back and they said everything was fine. I guess I'm here before you this evening. I'm a home builder. I know how to check for leaks. I don't have any leaks. There's been no abnormal water usage. As a matter of fact, in the month of June, my family and I were gone a total of 12 days. So my water bill should have been extremely low. I do have a sprinkler system. I don't have any leaks. I haven't been in a swimming pool.
Mike,
I don't know what else to do but to come here and speak to y'all and tell you that something's extremely in error.
Did our meter reader notice any leak when he was at the reading meter?
No, I think what we did. So you were on vacation, right, for a week or
12
2
days.
weeks?
Yeah, so there were 6 days I was gone with my family, and then another 6 days my family was gone. The children, I was by my
So the technician that went out to the property said that it appeared that they're doing some trenching in your front yard or something?
Yes, they're installing, I believe it's AT&T's installing fiber optics in our area. They've been there for over a month now. There is a, of course they mark with flags, utilities, water and all that. There is a box that runs straight in line with my water meter that they installed. You can see that. So here's our water meter box, and here's the box they installed. I mean, even that, if they were to hit that line, there's no way 132,000 gallons of water is going to leak out.
There's absolutely a way.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, it would leak, absolutely. Yeah. You would do that.
My technician did note that there was dirt and stuff on the street, so like
lots of silt built up.
That they could have hit something and made
and they fixed it.
And yes,
but while he was away.
Correct.
It would have happened when I was away.
So 6 days, that would be.
Full out of water.
Yeah, that would be 60,000 gallons, about maybe a little bit more than 60,000, probably. maybe
So I asked-
80, depending, because it's right there at the meter. It's just pouring out.
So when I got back from
Yeah.
vacation, obviously saw the bill, called immediately, asked neighbors around, did y'all see anything unusual? Asked the neighbors how their bills are, they don't see anything in different.
What is your normal usage?
Oh, I mean, the highest I've ever used in 7.5 years was 25,000 gallons back in 2013. So to say average.
In June and July of last year, he was at 12,000, 14,000.
Yeah, so I would say at this time, with sprinkler system running 3 times a week, I mean 15,000.
You say that's where you are right now? This time of the year, 14,000?
Yeah, I've looked, I have all 7.5 years. And what's interesting is, y'all just read my meter, I believe August 7th. That was a new meter. That one was 1,000 gallons. But prior to y'all pulling that, it was 6,000 gallons. So I used 7,000 gallons in a month, which then again, we were gone for a month in July during that cycle
And your
period. So
neighbors didn't see anything?
no
didn't
leak.
see a
I didn't have
leak?
anything repaired because there's not a leak. I know how to check for leaks in the
Right.
meter. So I don't have an explanation.
I think you mentioned that when they came out, the meter might have been off. And then
Our
it's
guys
just a-
tested it, and that's just an infield, a bucket test.
Right.
So that's why when we still have a
Yeah.
dispute from the customer, we have it pulled, and it was tested by Accurate Water Meter, which is a third-party company, and they
Yeah.
come back with the results. I mean,
And that one
we
was
just
just-
do bucket test.
And
It's really all we.
you guys
Yeah, no, I
haven't,
know, yeah.
you guys haven't heard from anybody else having their line hit?
We
Whatever.
have, yes, ma'am. There's been other, not particularly him
Right.
on his street, but we have on the boulevard, we've had a HOA meter, a 2-inch meter that was hit, and so it absolutely happened.
Okay, so.
And did the AT&T
You know, I don't
mess
know.
up, or
Yeah.
did the, yeah,
So it sounds like you got hit.
Unfortunately, the days we were gone,
Now,
Yeah.
how much of a discount are you looking for here?
well, so the bill's $1,059.77. So I went ahead and paid $159.77 because I figured that was probably around what I paid. So
How many gallons would that be then?
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Well, what's your normal bill, sir? I mean, you paid a dollar
Okay, yeah.
amount, so, what would
We paid
that?
14,000 gallons last
Okay.
time, and
I
that was
Yeah.
$110.80.
Okay.
So he paid above
Yeah,
then?
you paid more than you
Yeah,
would
so
normally pay.
so June I paid you just said $10. It was 14,000 gallons. So I
Well,
just
I've
paid
never made a-
$159. There was a $900 balance. There's something.
John,
So, yeah.
before we get too far though, do we know that it's fixed? I think you were telling me about those borehole where they put something through. Do we know when they're running wire?
What
Do we
you
know
think
that that's not? There's not something going through that pipe.
7,000 gallons.
So he's having
Well, no, but I thought there was something about it almost kind of plugging it in a way, but still slowly leaking. Do we know that it's not damaged?
More than 7,000.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
his next bill was 7,000.
It just seems weird that it's just.
They hit it, they fixed it.
I'm more weirded out by the fact that it's stopped.
Right.
Well,
Because I think they're there.
Which I think is unusual too. I asked all my neighbors, we're close to, we talked, and they said they
But-
didn't see anything unusual.
Okay.
Your water bill was 1,000 even?
$1,059.77.
You're trying to come up with what are we gonna, 1,000?
We can't go to the utility
Okay,
company and ask.
Okay, so you
So I paid $159.77,
Huh?
leaving a balance of $900.
And they sub everything out, so. I mean,
Okay,
if it's
I'm not,
tank and all that,
I've never asked for
attorney can send a
credit.
letter and maybe you
I've
get.
never asked for credit, and I'm asking if anybody wants to make a motion to credit this gentleman $900.
I'll make that motion, yes.
Can I ask something real quick?
And so we have
It's not against.
no, you can ask, just, I'll make sure we got a
You have a second.
Who seconded? Mr. Nichols?
Jim.
Okay.
Okay, please,
Can we approach the utility company? I mean, it looks like you got a lot of pictures that are very suggestive that something happened, and there's a timeline. Because I mean, yes, we'd be taking care of that for you, but then it's just spreading out to everybody.
I've seen a lot.
So I'm interested in getting that money back for everybody.
Well,
but is that even an?
It's subbed out though.
So there's not even an option to do
He
that.
would have to, you would be acting on his behalf. It hit him on his side of the meter.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, sorry, you used the water. You need to go talk to AT&T. You owe us the water.
But we can't take that
But
on.
you can't take on, or you can say, gosh, we're wise people, we understand what happened here. Just be done with it.
Yeah.
But you can't step into his shoes and pursue, use district consultants and district.
Well, maybe if it turns into a pattern. How about
Right.
that? If we see the same group doing
Does
it.
the utility company have to ask before they do that on your property?
No,
No?
utility easement,
Okay.
yeah, so they.
Okay.
Yeah.
they
Well,
can
we
enforce
can
it.
vote.
They put notices out, they hang tags, I've got a
I
tag
didn't even
still.
see those, but.
I have a tag still that says AT&T with a phone number, so there is somebody to contact, but you probably won't get to.
Now, Mr. Ridgway, my answer is different if they hit our line.
Yeah.
My answer is different if they hit the district's line. Then we call Mr. Raddick and say, sue their.
It's just a few inches.
But when you're fighting
But
with
it's
them, that's
on
hard.
his side.
It's
So
even
I
hard
have-
with AT&T when you're fighting with them when they hit your line,
Right.
unless you know the time, the sub that did it.
Right.
You know, you got to know who to go after.
Go out of business and start a
Yeah,
company
they'll
without a
just-
name. 'Cause it's
Fold.
an LLC.
Yeah.
Well, so that seems like it incentivizes them to go on the resident side of it instead of our side. If they had to run it,
I don't think they care one way or
I agree
another.
with
They're
that it incentivizes
They go
that.
wherever the hell they want to go.
Okay.
That's exactly what they do.
Well,
Okay. Well, we can vote on it.
yes, and all in favor, please?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So what,
Thank you.
I didn't hear what.
adjustment of $900.
And sir, it was very important that you came out to us. It helps us so much when we can hear from you.
Thank you very much
We
for-
would not have
Yeah,
understood
thank
it
you for
that well.
coming.
Because we have them, we do have cases, and they don't come down, and it helps a lot.
Well, I had to for this month.
Yes,
Just
I think
that's-
so. Well, that's
that's
good.
of course.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, we do appreciate
Thank you
it.
for your consideration.
Maybe keep an eye on that meter. Make sure it doesn't
So I
do anything
literally
weird.
check it about every 2 days.
Yeah. I'd be nervous.
They put a brand new meter on it. I just
Okay.
checked it this evening. It's at 1,000. So
Brand new ones are a lot more accurate than the older ones. Make sure you stay right on top of it.
do I need to
I got it.
call up here or anything?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your
Thank you.
time. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments from anyone? Any comment from you, sir? No? You have any more? No, sir? Okay, thank you. All right, Bill, our bookkeeper's report.
Okay, debt service funds had an $80,000 tax transfer, $2156.18 in interest, $1,550 we paid to your paying agent fees, and we had service charges. You're at $1,489,661.04.
What was the 1550?
That's your annual fee that you have to pay the bank that handles your bonds.
Okay.
And we will be making that 9/1 payment probably next week. Capital projects, $1172 in interest, $1134 in service charges. You have $91,976.22. Operating had deposits of $417,593.92. Tonight we're presenting 36 checks that total $458,623.53. Other disbursements, $171,723.90. Of course, most of that is the San Jacinto River and your electric.
That's for 2 months?
What?
The SJRA part? Never mind. I think I read that already. I didn't see it.
You have 2 SJR.
Okay. I didn't see it on last month, so I was thinking that meant it was 2 months worth.
That's because it's in the other disbursements. This month is in the regular disbursements. Balance is $1,275,254.53. That investment drew $504.07 in interest, $15 service charge. It's at $1,696,242.26. Total funds $2,971,496.79. Transferred $10,000 over to deposit refund account. There were 35 deposit refunds totaling $2,611.98. Balance in that account's $8,200.77. Collected a little over $12,000 in taxes this month. That account has $42,992.79. Brand new budget year, you're a little over on revenues and just about the same amount over on expenditures. And it looks like you got about 63% of your yearly budget, so on hand. That'll be increased as taxes come in. Remember, we're going to get this is the lowest time of the year your reserve will be, because we won't start with. We're over 99% collected in taxes, so your water bills don't pay all your expenses. There's your meeting by meeting comparison. There's your investment report. Rates continue to climb, and like I said, we're not renewing any CDs unless they'll give us 2.1% for 6 months at least. So we're still in pretty good shape in our investments. Your money's pledged and secured at 128%. I did write one additional check. John told me I could write it. It was to the engineer. His invoices came in today, and his 4 invoices totaled $14,379.66. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
I thought you were giving us a discount. I saw 0.
It does depend on when our billing cycle is and when the meeting is. Sometimes mine will go, I'll miss a month and then we'll see.
Well, you had those 2 feasibility studies you billed for this month.
That's right.
2 feasibility studies. So
Yeah.
the bookkeeper helps you out every once in a while, because he's 97%.
Okay, a motion to pay the bills and director fees and expenses?
I make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and then Bill has told us about our tax transfer.
Yeah, you actually did get a report. Sometimes they come in before the meeting, so that's your chair. As he said, to be over 99% collected for 2017.
Okay, now the next item is Drew. We'll review proposed tax rate for 2018, called public hearing on proposed tax rate.
Good evening. My name is Drew Masterson with Masterson Advisors. We are your financial advisor on bond issues and hang around once a year at a minimum to advise on your tax rate, which generally goes to pay the bonds. So we'd like to weigh in on that topic to make sure that everything is copacetic. Because there are lots of considerations in the tax rate, such as your bond rating and just general business practices. So that's why we're here. And what you have is a page full of numbers, and I'll hit the highlights quickly, but I'll give you the punchline first, which is values are down about 0.4% across the district. And we're recommending that you maintain the tax rate where it was last year. So no tax increase. In fact, tax collections would go down by 0.4%.
With the way they changed that state law where you have to say if it's an increase, even if you're not, I'm making sure I'm understanding the terminology. You know what I'm talking about? If the appraisals go up and you don't lower, it could be considered raising, and you would have to. So when you say that, are you saying it in that context, or literally keeping it the same rate?
Keeping the rate the same, collecting fewer dollars.
Okay.
And I'll go through why.
Okay.
And Mr. Ridgway, just to hit what you may be thinking about the newspaper article that gets published, and it will show a decrease because you see over in the right-hand corner.
Stealing my thunder.
Yeah, I was already.
I've been sitting out here with my
I was looking for the headline.
Shout me down, Drew. Shout me down. I'm out of order.
If I say something illegal, then
I'm going to the back.
on the bottom right-hand side of the page are really the numbers relating to your question, Mr. Ridgway, which is last year, you see 2017 tax rate was 36 cents for debt service and 15 cents for maintenance and operations, or a total of 51 cents. The next set of statistics there shows that your average homestead value last year was $192,000, and this year it's dropped to $190,000. And then your average tax bill last year was $983. The calculated tax rates get to some of what you were talking about there. The parity rate is the rate that would bring in the same dollars as last year on the average homestead value, which is the rate that kind of triggers those publications in the newspaper. So that's really the focal point of that particular question is the parity rate would go up to 51.56. We're going to recommend keeping the total rate at 51 cents, such that you're below the parity rate, and your publication will show an actual decrease in the levy or the dollars collected. The rollback rate is 108% of the parity rate. So the rollback rate is the rate that the district could go up to without triggering a potential petition for a rollback election. And then the M&O rollback is kind of irrelevant because you're at the maximum voted rate of 15 cents, so you can't levy higher than that anyway. So those are kind of some of the statistics. Turning to the debt service part of the calculation, on the upper left-hand side of the page, you see 5 years worth of history on your assessed value, ranging from $541 million up to $700 million last year, and down slightly to $697 million this year. So, relatively speaking, pretty flat. Not a major decrease. You see the tax rate has dropped basically every year over the last 5 years, and that this year at $697 million, we would recommend keeping that constant at the 36 cents that you levied for debt last year. It's a tax year 2018 calculation, but the dollars actually flow in 2019 with regards to paying debt service. Your beginning fund balance after the September 1 payment that Bill referenced a minute ago would be about $1,000,001, $1,099,000. You'd bring in about $2.4 million in tax collections, assuming a 97% collection rate, which would give you total funds available of about $3,500,000 to make payments next year of $2.6 million, leaving $935,000 in the bank. So drawing the fund balance down a little bit from the beginning balance of this year. That would be 36, almost 37% of your next year's payment, which in our world is pretty skinny. We like to see that number over 50%, but we also don't like to recommend raising taxes. So,
well, quick question: Do we know? And I don't know that this would be in your wheelhouse. If that decrease in the assessed valuation might be a ding from Hurricane Harvey,
probably is.
And then if we do something, will we just find ourselves increasing the rate the following year?
If you do what?
Well, sorry, I'm seeing if there's a pendulum effect of
this does assume that the value stays constant at the 697.
That's what I'm wondering.
If you look at the second column from the left, if the value doesn't go down any further, we would be able to maintain this tax rate and make all of our payments and maintain at the low point 31% of the next year's payment.
Okay, well, cross my fingers. I'm just thinking those valuations are coming from across like other parts of the district, because I don't know about a lot of Imperial Oaks homes flooding, but maybe. So our values are probably. Never mind. I'll just sit out if you please here.
So no major Harvey effect, but generally what we're seeing some declines. Not all. I mean, we have some districts up as much as 10% on just values. So it's very sporadic, but it's hard to generalize this year. On average, I think we looked at some of the early numbers that came in, and we were seeing on average about a 2% increase. We don't have Harris County yet, so we don't know about that. But in Fort Bend, Montgomery, Brazoria, the counties that are in, we were seeing about a 2% increase. So, you know, you're basically flat. And, so assuming no growth in value, you'd be able to make your future payments without having to change the tax rate is, I think, the point you were getting to. Any other questions on the debt service side of the calculation? So 36 cents on debt. On the left-hand side of the page, about halfway down that column, you see maintenance and tax M&O information. The maximum voted rate in the district is 15 cents. Well, that's what you levied last year. Your budget has, on the very bottom of that column, has $1.2 million in it for maintenance tax. You can't get there. With this value, you're going to generate about $1,014,000. So we can't go up on the maintenance tax, and the budget's about $186,000, probably overstated, based on probably a preliminary value that was available at the time the budget was drawn or something. But it
no
is
values. It's a May audit, so
yeah.
So we had nothing.
You were just estimating, probably estimating a small increase in value or something like that.
Small.
So the good news is that the budget also has a almost $400,000 surplus in it, the second line from the bottom there. So if you take the 186 reduced collections on the maintenance tax, you still have a $209,000 budget surplus.
I'm not ashamed to ask. Somebody please walk me through maintenance tax again. I feel like I brought this up once.
What is it?
Yeah, versus, it's the 0.15 versus the 0.36, right?
That's right.
Okay.
And it's for the operations of the district. Basically, it subsidizes your water rates. You didn't collect the maintenance tax, you'd have to levy even higher water rates. Most people deduct their taxes, and they don't deduct their water rates, or they can't deduct their water rates. So
okay,
many districts like their maintenance tax for that purpose.
Okay.
And James, just in Bill's report, to boil it down the simplest way possible, in legal terms, there are 3 pots of money that the district has. They have the debt service fund. That's where the debt service tax rate money goes into the debt service fund. The capital projects fund is when the district issued bonds. They haven't issued any in a few years, but when they do, when they issue bonds and those bonds close, the proceeds from those bonds go into that capital projects fund, and that has to be used for whatever you issued the bonds for. Like if you issued it to build the last time they issued new money bonds, it was to build a 3rd water well. And so that there's $96,000 left there. And then that 3rd pot of money over here is the general operating fund, and that's where your water and sewer revenues go, and it's where the maintenance tax revenues go. And that money is you have the broadest discretionary power of those 3 funds. The debt service only used for debt service. Capital projects for those bond issues that are amounts that have been approved. And general operating is everything else that runs the district.
Thank you.
The last thing I would say is that your total budget, I'm looking now at the 3rd line at the bottom on the left there, your total operating budget was $4,751,000, and if you recall, your maintenance tax was budgeted at $1,200,000, just for scope. So the rest of that money comes, from your water and sewer rates predominantly. Your general fund balance at the time that we ran this about a month ago was $3,184,000. I think it's about $3,200,000 now, and that is an 8-month reserve. For a mature district, 12-month reserve is ideal. It gives you that buffer in the event of major emergencies or something. But I would say one mitigating fact, I would say 8 months is healthy. 12 months would be ideal, but you are a large district, so 8 months is a lot of money, and that can handle, a well going out or something like that. Better than 8 months in a small district, I'll put it that way. But you have more things to maintain. So 12 months would be ideal, and you are building a surplus, so that's good. But all in all, you're in great shape, and maintaining the tax rate would be our recommendation at 36 and 15 for a total of 51 cents.
Sounds very good.
Now, there is a legal process that you go
Yes.
through.
Now, Lori can help us now.
Now, Lori?
Yeah, may I speak?
Oh, yeah, I asked it first.
May it please the court.
Well, he's been patient.
So,
Please.
yeah. Two-step process, like we do in Texas, everything's two-step. So tonight, what you can and should do is authorize the publication of the proposed tax rate. You should establish whatever you think the maximum tax rate should be. You can, and so we have a draft here. The controller's office has a very particular form, and so does the Texas Water Code. 49.236, if you're interested, is where that sits. You have to tell the public that you're going to consider the tax rate, and you have to have a public hearing on it. So Tammy McRae likes to have all her tax rates set by the 15th of September. Sometimes that requires you to have a special meeting, but this year, no. Your meeting is going to fall early enough in September because it's going to fall on the 10th, I believe. So you can go ahead and publish your notice and have a public hearing on the 10th and proceed to adopt the rate. If you do, if all the form of the notice tells when the public meeting will be held, September 10th. It tells who voted for, who voted against, and who was absent. It tells last year's total rate, this year's proposed total rate, and then it goes through the house appraisals, and that's what you were thinking of, I think, Mr. Ridgway, and what Drew pointed out here on the right side of the page, because your average, the law triggers off the average homestead value, and because your average homestead value declines slightly with exemptions from $192,700 to $190,000, setting the tax rate actually results in a slight reduction on average. And everything. Average is average. Your house may be worth more, your house may be worth less. Actual house value applies. But basically, if you adopt this 51-cent rate, notice is going to show that the decrease, it would be a decrease of $10.64, so a couple of Starbucks coffees for your residents, and a 1.08% decrease on the average house.
Okay, so everybody agrees that, we're not voting on the tax rate. We're
What
just agreeing that we're going to have the public hearing.
Right, and you have to tell me, the board needs to take a vote, and I need to see who's in favor and who's against, and you need to tell me if 51 cents is the number.
That's what we need to know. So.
Everything else the statute governs in the next meeting on September 10th.
So is that a motion? We're voting, right?
Yeah,
motion for
just
it?
I need a motion to propose a public hearing with a tax rate of 51 cents.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Great to see you all.
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Good to
Yes,
see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Twice. Okay, Mike, we're going to get to the operator's report, please.
Okay, guys, I think you all have a copy of my report in front of you. For July, you have water and sewer revenue totaling $382,962.71. You have 3,820 connections, 3,598 garbage collection, and 42 vacancies in your district. We pumped from all three wells this month, and we purchased from the SJRA a total of 44,100,000 gallons. We billed out this month 43,411,000 gallons. Your pump versus accounted for is 99%, guys. I want you to remember that We read 3 days later this month, so we lost 3 days in the last billing cycle. So next month you'll see that your pump versus accounted for will be definitely a lot lower. So back around the 93%. We fixed 10 leaks in your district this month. We took 10 back T samples. They were all good. Your wastewater treatment plant is currently operating at 70% of its permitted capacity with no violations. No taps for the month. We have a total tap connection of 3,820. I don't have any write-offs this month.
Oh, wow. I mean, next month we'll be
That's all I have really, guys. I mean, it was a pretty quiet month. We did have a major mainline break on the boulevard last week. We took care of it. Nothing really too big.
So did that close the road down for that?
It did.
Yeah. Huh.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any other questions for Mike on the? No. Okay. And Parks report, please.
All right, guys. Wetlands. There was regular mowing of the wetland areas performed throughout the district. There was trimmed brush and cut tree limbs off fence line on Nature Park. We trimmed limbs around protected areas in Ashton Village, Copperwood, and Westland. We placed several wetland signs around the district that were destroyed, and the letters and stuff had came off. So we just we got all those cleaned up, and the ones that were not readable anymore, they have been replaced. For the pavilion, there were 16 calls this month, 9 for the pavilion, 5 for the ball fields, 2 needing other information. There was one party. That check has been delivered to your bookkeeper. Parks, nothing really going on there. Everything is going pretty well. Ball fields is the same. Things have kind of slowed down. We'll start picking back up the ball fields for fall ball. That's it.
Any questions on the Parks, guys? I want to go back to the district report. I've been meaning to either call you or just remind you tonight of our district Rayford Road signs that say that we're Superior Water District. They need to be updated. The one going off of Robinson Road, it's leaning over and the paint is completely, it needs to be changed.
Okay.
That one is, I don't know if I've noticed any others, but that one for sure. If you can take a look at all of them.
Yes, sir.
And get
the
them.
one on I won't do anything with the one on Rayford Road right
Yeah,
now that's
right.
in between Spring Creek.
No.
Well, we don't have it after we.
But if your guys, when they're out, they can just take a look. I know
Yes,
that
sir.
one on Robinson Road turning onto Ashton.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that one needs to be updated.
Because I'm looking at it, maybe we can clear this up. When I'm looking at SJRA fees and the LSGCD fees, I could swear that I have seen that within the SJRA fee, that GRP, that we're paying the LSGCD fee within their fee, because then they pay it to LSGCD.
No,
but
we pay a quarterly. You got a quarterly bill this month that was paid to the SJRA for what they used to call Lone Star fees. They're now SJR's amount, and I get those separate from. I get a copy from Lauren, and I get a copy from Keith.
But I guess what I'm asking is the SJRA fee does not include the LSGCD fee.
No, but the SJRA sends a separate invoice.
You have a separate. If you look on my report, you'll see.
Wait. Yeah, you get a monthly invoice from SJRA for water pumpage. That's the one you're going to see every month.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then four quarters. Each quarter, they are going to bill you based upon the allocation. They take every single large volume groundwater user, and each year they prepare an allocation for what your permitted allotment is. Because it used to be that Rayford Road held the 3 permits to its wells.
Yeah.
And so when you signed the contract with the SJRA, they become the joint permit holder for all of the wells in the groundwater reduction plan. So then they send you a quarterly bill, which then they turn around and remit to Lone Star. And they're supposed to true that up and either give you back,
Yeah, and maybe that's, you can see where I'm going, because I look at it and go, are we paying for it twice because we pay SJRA and we have it on our own bills?
No. Okay, that's different. That's what Mike collects from the customer.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, that's not what we're paying out. That's how much money he's collected to San Jacinto fees and how much money he attributes to Lone Star groundwater fee. That quarterly pumpage or that annual pumpage thing.
Mm-hmm.
What we pay San Jacinto for our wells is $5,672 a quarter.
Okay.
So you kind of got apples and oranges.
Yeah. Well, I'll go get educated on that, making sure that on our bills, on the actual customer bills, they see the two fees. And so our accounting is finessed in a way that we're saying that it's this many cents per 1,000 gallons that's going straight to LSGCD, but it's not going straight. Technically, it's going to SJRA, and then it's going to LSGCD, but that fee is not included in SJRA's fee that we're doing 10% on top of for the...
No, that's correct. No, that's
okay.
The pumpage fee versus the permit fee.
Thank you.
Jason, our engineer's report, please.
All right, guys. The commercial water line loop plans, we've got 90% plans done. So we sent them, not 95, 90. 90% plans is what gets sent out to agencies. Once we get comments back from them, then we go from 90 to 100, and then we'll be able to bid it for you guys. So it takes about a month and a half for agencies to review this. This water line is in the city, Houston ETJ, so we'll go to the city and to Montgomery County. We'll get their review back, and then we'll go from there.
About 6 more weeks minimum before we get to 100%.
Yeah.
So don't expect it for the next.
Yeah. And then the next is, actually I'm going to hit number 13 on the agenda, which is the car wash feasibility. If you look, the page right after my 11x17 aerial, we got an updated layout of the area, and the long and short of it is that the square footage and the usage that he's proposing was actually the same as what he had before in the last report. So all we did is go back and verify all the numbers. So it's exactly the same. The only difference is it's a little bit more concise, and he's got a little bit more area. It looked like his detention probably got a little bit bigger versus the last setup he had. So the quick answer is it's exactly the same.
Can you give me some landmarks on, so I can imagine?
It's west of Imperial Oaks Boulevard.
Okay. Okay.
So, and remind me, this was, it was we required an update because they added some land.
So if you look at the first aerial, the 1, 2, 3, 4 squares on the bottom of the outline red, those are the ones that were added.
So
these squares right here.
Okay.
So these ones right here are the ones that were added.
Jason, I couldn't see from where you were. Could you come down here?
Sure. It's these that were added.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
1, 2, 3. Basically, it looks like 4. Those houses are.
Yeah.
And so you're recommending works?
Yeah, so I think you guys had already agreed to provide out-of-district service, and I believe it was 3 times the rate.
Right.
So it's still the same, so my recommendation is that you guys still do what you already agreed to do.
That's right.
Okay.
What were the pros and cons on that versus annexing? I wasn't on the board.
We won't go over there on that.
Well, it's going to cost the gentleman the same amount if we annexation or this proposed tax rate. It came out to the same. We went back and forth. He certainly would like a lower tax rate. We've discussed that, but it would be the same. We have to go with the 3 times rate.
We'd only, okay.
Yeah, if you read the report, it gives both.
Okay.
You actually make more money serving them as an out-of-district.
Okay. Are there ever situations where that's kind of 10 years, you revisit? I'm just thinking about getting...
Lori
commercial property in our district
Right.
that can then subsidize residential.
Well, there's other disadvantages of having him in our district, so that's why we've gone out of district.
Okay.
Because we don't really want him annexed into our district if there's
We had the original agreement. We would need to just change a couple of things about the original agreement, and that would be just to add the third tract, because the way the one that the board approved back in last year, we had a 2.0776 acre tract and a 3.0104 acre tract, and then now we would be adding a, what's the third tract?
He's got an overall survey of the whole track now, Lori.
Okay, so maybe it's best just to...
Yeah, in my packet.
It's 8.78 acres total combined.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
there's a
I don't know, if I were you, I would say annex is much better because it's 8.78 acres. I mean, it's the way I look at it, the water bills 3 times for now, yeah, it's fair for me. But I guess it would be unfair for the district to be, if keep us as an annex, it would be better for you.
So the discussion, the discussion that the board had at the time, there were concerns from the board about the fact that an annexation is an agreement in perpetuity to serve the land no matter what it becomes.
Right.
And that was of concern to the board just based on capacity limitations. When Jason did the original feasibility study, it seems, I don't remember all the details, but I remember there were some capacity limitations that were coming into play, and that we were fearful of if we...
Well, that would be a problem either way, right?
Well, we are agreeing in an out-of-district agreement, we are agreeing only to serve this many connections.
I see.
And we're giving it for a 20-year term. So in 20 years, you know, that agreement will expire, and then we'll be looking at figuring out what to do then.
Plus,
that would be,
in annexation, you're assuming he's going to reach some value, and if he never reaches it, then you'll never get that money.
right. So the board at that time just decided that it was most advantageous to the board just to serve.
Do they have to be 20-year terms? Could we do something short and see if he's got awesome property value?
The board can reopen, you know, that.
Well, I'm just saying 20 years is a long time.
That's the whole purpose of looking at
so
this.
the other problem he has is he has to pay for the piping going to him. If we annex him, we have to pay for the piping, the water line.
Yeah, so right now, the sanitary connection is private.
Yeah.
So he's
Right.
paying for that.
So
He's paying for everything, but
Right.
the sanitary is a private line, so he has to end up maintaining it ultimately. So you guys wouldn't. And the water line is going to be a public line up to its boundary, and then
Right.
everything past that would be private. So that public water line, you guys will be maintaining it.
Would it push our ETJ at all? No? Okay.
But if you did an annexation, you would have that. This would be in the city of Houston's ETJ, is my recollection.
So you don't get to push out into theirs?
Right. We would have to get their approval for the annexation. So that's a costly, another $25,000 of legal fees to go to the city of Houston to get their approval to annex.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm asking is because what you're seeing with Spring Creek, MUD, or Utility District, and South Montgomery County, they're getting, Spring Creek has got a nice injection with the developments going on. So I'm just looking at it and going, well, but
we're limited on water. Our permitted water that we can.
My suggestion is to read the report.
Yeah, that was my next. I need to. Well, look, I'm asking because I want to know.
Yeah, and I haven't seen this report either, so or the revised report.
But we're not. Are we doing anything right now?
Yeah, we want to vote on adding the extra property that you because the water's staying the same, right?
Yes.
So we just need to. The feasibility study, we need to approve the new feasibility study. A motion for that?
What's the motion? I didn't understand.
Approve the new feasibility study. He's adding property into that. Our water in this contract that we have that we're going to supply him is the same number of connections. It did not change.
It's
Do
just
you know
bigger.
what are the number of connections?
The original 2 tracks were roughly 5.2 acres. So he's adding
8.
3 more acres, and the number of connections are
the same.
Do you know how many? So they might know.
It's I think it's 52 total.
Okay.
67.
67 connections. That's going to stay the same. So, but we
And that doesn't bust your none of what we're doing.
No.
So the question for the board tonight is whether you want to authorize me to update I need to make some updates to the out-of-district service agreement.
To add that line.
To add that line.
Yeah. I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay. Is there more discussion?
No.
Okay. We've got motions. You have anything?
No, I was just asking Jason about the rate of the water rate. So is it water rate, how often is going to be changing? It's going to be 3 times. Let's say right now water rate is, I'm not sure what rate you guys have here, but whatever water rate goes and then it goes after certain years, it triples my bills more than what it is right now. So that's what I'm kind of in this thing in the proposition here. Rather going just next would be better. So I will be in this, being like a fair deal for around using as being a district.
Our rate has not changed, and I'm not sure that it's changed since I've been on the board. Our water rate. Now, the San Jacinto is where we always get the increases from.
Yeah, that's going to increase. It's published that it's going to increase.
We can't control that.
Over the next 20 years, if anybody want to bet me that it won't?
I can't control that. We can't control that.
That's for sure. I don't know how.
Maybe not today, but
if I have to sign with you guys, I mean, I need to know in somewhere that where we're going to stand from 5 years from now. I mean, some sort of understanding that makes me to.
I don't know, sir. I mean, we saw.
Well, okay, real quick, Lori, Jason, is there a middle ground where? I mean, you mentioned if we go one route, he has to pay for everything. If we go the other route, we have to pay for everything. But is there a middle road where he pays us to put in some of those lines?
He already is.
Well, and if we annexed where we didn't have to pay that.
Pay to put in the lines?
Yeah, I thought you said if we annexed, then we're suddenly having to pay to put in these lines.
Well, that's a problem. That's problematic for you anyway because you don't have any bonded authority left.
Okay.
So,
well, I'm gonna. We're about to vote, but I'm gonna abstain just till I get smarter on this.
Well, and I think there's a second bite at this apple because the board, what I heard or what I think I heard is that y'all want me to update the service agreement. But so I can send that out, to the board in advance of the next meetings to remind those of you who were here when it was done and to give it to you since you haven't seen it. But I'll have to, to look at Jason's feasibility because I think we had it tied to tracts.
Yep.
And so I'll need to talk to Jason a little bit about how to, in looking at this feasibility study, how to tie those numbers down to this agreement. But
okay, so the motion is to have Lori update the agreement?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Abstain.
I vote against,
Okay.
Okay, so what, we have 3, 1, and 1, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Jim, what was your reservation? I didn't.
I just don't. I don't go with expanding out beyond our geographic limits.
Oh, I
to
see.
me, we should stay within our geographic limits of Rayford Road MUD, and that's just my feeling.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't here. I missed the meeting, unfortunately, when it was voted on originally, so I didn't have a say-so then, and this is the only way I've got to do it. So.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you feel about expanding those limits?
Okay. And then The last thing I have, well, one of the last things is the discharge permit got submitted last Thursday, so it's with the TCEQ and for renewal, which the latest submittal date was October 1st, so we definitely beat that, so we're just in the queue now. And that's all I have in my report. The next thing I have is number 14, which is abandonment of Woodlands Gully maintenance easement and acceptance of conveyance of a new easement. So in 2002, before I started working, so this thick line right here is Rayford Road MUD's boundary. Right here is 115, or the Falls, as you guys may know it. And at that time, MUD 99 is right here. DD10 needed an easement to help manage some of the water that was in Woodson's Gully. And so at that time, we used the best data that we had available to determine some of the areas that would be needed for the maintenance of Woodson's Gully. Of course, back then we had things like, we didn't have things that we have now, which is something like LiDAR. And all we had was USGS maps, which had 5-foot intervals, so it wasn't very accurate. So now that we do have a lot more stuff to use as we go by, there is some land that 115 is able to recoup that falls within that easement. And so if you see the little chicken scratch there.
Do I have?
I thought I gave one to you. Here's another one just in case. Okay. So the land that is scratched off is actually where North of Forest Drive crosses, and there is projected to be some lots within the falls right there. And in addition to that, the piece that is above this Y, so this right here, is no longer needed either. And so there is some adjustment that needs to be made, and you guys are named in the easement. So anything done to the easements has to be, you guys have to agree to it. So right now there's a detention pond that DD10 maintains, which is right in this area here, and the outfall goes into Woodson's Gully, so that's why this area is included in that easement. It doesn't change anything for you guys. It doesn't impact you in any way by basically rewriting the easement to take this area out and this area out. The only thing I would say, and I'm sure Lori knows, is that the abandonment of this existing easement needs to coincide with the new easement recorded at the same time. That way there's no gap in between the two.
We are giving it to 115 because of the development?
No, the easement,
we're
going to abandon
we
what's...
don't need it.
No, hold on.
Okay.
We're going to abandon everything that's shaded, and we're going to rewrite it minus this piece, and minus a piece down here.
Oh, okay. So
and that's
we're not going to include that in our easement. And who takes that then?
DD10 is in the easement, Rayford's in the easement, and I think...
But the fee owner is the developer of the falls.
Right, that's right.
I mean, that's the point here, is that this easement got conveyed by the Sherwoods, I think, wasn't it? Way back when. So back
the original owners.
The original owners conveyed, the Sherwoods conveyed this big easement to Jim Holcomb's group at the time under a different name, and to DD10, and to you guys, all three. And so then when Jim Holcomb finished developing, he deeded up, or he conveyed his easement interest over to you and DD10. So now he's at the point where now they're the engineer also for the falls and 115 and DD10, or for Falls and MUD 99, Meadows and Falls. And so what Jason is saying is that y'all don't need all of this easement area anymore.
And I just want to make sure of that. I just want to make sure we're not going to need this for any kind of drainage, that we're going to come back, and they're going to come back on us saying we're draining now.
The two pieces, the two pieces we're removing Does not change
We don't
anything
have
you
any
guys
flow
need.
from,
No.
I mean, we're in the drainage district 10 anyway.
This all still is going to be there.
Right, okay.
That's not, we're going to redo it so it looks exactly the same, just minus those two pieces.
Can you give me some cardinal directions? Like if I'm in the center of the district, where's this?
To the east.
Okay. Okay.
Jason, could you mentioned Northridge Forest across here someplace. Could you clear
Yeah,
that up for me?
so if I were to, so Northridge comes through here like this.
Wait a minute. Across that hatch mark. This is Falls then?
That's the falls.
And this is IO?
Yep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. I'm okay with the rewriting of the easement. And motion for, help me out on that motion.
To accept the abandonment and the recordation of the new
That's
easement.
right. See, I was all set. Okay, so I need a motion for that and a second.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Abstain. I don't understand.
That's fine. I mean, I can explain to you later.
Okay.
That's all I got, guys.
I mean, I'm being honest. If I voted on it, I would not know what I just voted on.
Okay. And now the SJRA conveyance of facility.
No, I'm word.
Development. Agreement for operation of streetlights with property owner association.
Okay. You all will recall that last month you authorized the execution of a new energy contract, electricity contract. I'll remind the board that you have a corresponding, and that was done. What rate exactly did you get, Bill? Do you remember? It was low.
Well, I remember we said we weren't going to go over .05.
It was within the thing, but I don't remember what it was.
You got more than, you got even lower than what you authorized.
Okay.
You got a good rate, and you've locked it down for 4 more years starting in 2020. So the new contract will go through 2024. The district has a corresponding agreement with the Imperial Oaks Park Property Owners Association for the streetlight portion. They can't get the good rate you can. It's just impossible.
Yeah.
MUDs have better credit rating than HOAs. They're better bill payers. So when you negotiate electricity contracts, you can get a better rate. So you've always worked well with the Property Owners Association forever in Rayford Road. And so what you all did many years ago was make the agreement that you would include the streetlights in your name under your flag.
Do we need to make a...
But and then you have a separate agreement for the operation of the streetlights with the Imperial Oaks Park Property Owners Association. So you pay the bill to the electricity company. You turn around and you send the bill to the HOA and they pay you back for the streetlight portion. And since you've now extended your contract, you also need to extend the corresponding contract with the Property Owners Association. I turned into Herman on that one and made that one 3 times longer.
That's okay. I mean,
Since we are all also residents of Imperial Oaks, I think it's some may not know that the street lights, if it's not completed or in process and almost complete, being changed out to LED lighting. It's going to represent about, as I understand it, close to a 40% saving in energy costs.
Yeah.
So, and it did not cost the POA 1 red cent. The CenterPoint replaced those. They had to, basically, but they got to us early in the game.
Yeah, their invoice went down to around 15,000, where it would run over 17. So.
Well, I don't know that we've had one since the LEDs have been installed.
Yeah. So like you said, the electricity
They're still not all.
is just a small portion of it.
They're still doing it.
The equipment cost of that is still very high. So they're not going to see 40% total reduction. So.
But I do have for the board's approval, we have received a Form 1295 from the Property Owners Association, so it is appropriate for the board to enter into a new agreement with the Property Owners Association.
Do we need to make a
motion?
motion? I'll make that motion.
Second, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Tax assessor collector contract
Yeah,
with
and I had
Montgomery
a
County.
strong sense of deja vu that we talked about this earlier this year, but I'll talk about it again. Your agreement with the tax assessor expires at the end of September. automatically renews if you're happy with her, I suggest you let it automatically renew.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's happy with that?
Yeah.
They're doing a fantastic job.
They do a good job, and you can't beat the price.
Do we need a motion, or is we
No,
just?
sir.
It's just gonna automatically.
If the board's, if everybody's happy, let it roll.
Okay, I'm happy. We're on.
And then we have no business for the executive session, but the pending business, I would like to know if there's any report back from the insurance claim.
I haven't, I'm sorry, I haven't heard anything
Okay.
from them. We'll have to ask Mike.
Make sure they're doing something on it, you know, so we don't end up like the follow the grass.
Can we put winter averaging on the next meeting?
Yeah, we're open for discussion on that.
Okay.
Yeah, winter averaging, Mr. Phillips? Okay. Anything you'd like done on that, or you just want to talk about it at the meeting?
I just-
Research that you need me to do, or just?
Well, I don't think we need to do any legal research. I think as far as winter averaging, it might be more in Mike's wheelhouse to see if we can do it.
What winter averaging is that we would take the customer's sewer and water during the winter, and then come summer, we would use that average to bill their sewer at.
Okay.
Right?
Right. That
Just something to think about for what he's wanting to discuss?
Yeah.
So it's trying to lower their cost for their sewer because they're not using as much sewer. That is, they're not using as much sewer in the summer. It's mostly irrigation. That's why they're rated. So he wants to reduce the sewer rate to them during the summer.
Okay.
Or average it.
right.
That's what it does.
Mike, I'm sorry you had stepped out right then when John asked the question of, did you know anything about the insurance, status of the insurance claim?
The foundation and
No,
such and
hadn't heard
such.
anything
They don't
else?
report to you necessarily.
Oh,
They've asked me
they've
questions.
asked us for more documentations, and we've sent them documentation.
So again, this month they asked for more.
Yes.
Okay, then they're moving on with it then. They're not just waiting like the SGRA. Yeah.
It's still a process.
Yeah, oh no,
And
it'll
they're
take a
not
long
happy.
time. Oh, they're not happy.
No,
Well, but this is what we have to do, you know. So, have they had more damage that you know of? Okay, they're all reported to the insurance that they would have more damage. Okay. Anything else, Lori?
No, sir.
Okay, a motion to adjourn.
I make that motion.
Second.
Oh, sorry, thank you.
I just grabbed in front of you and I saw the red flag and blue flag.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.